Today I have a very special guest here with me. Nikos, how are you?
You're not going to say my last name?
On the advantage. Casabella now. Sides coming even. Here's Dealey. In close. Score it! Right on the front doorstep. Delagrammatikas, correct! You couldn't write a better story.
There was an understanding that was kind of like, okay, we talk all that smack about how we want to win a ring. This is what we need to do. That was the first moment really in my life where I was kind of like, even my parents who have always been kind of like, okay, let's try and do this. They called me, they were like, do you want to come home? It's okay. We know you like to push it, but it's okay. And I remember that conversation. I started crying, but I was like, no freaking way. There's no way I'm coming back. Everybody dreams of scoring the winning goal at some point in their life. And I was never a big scorer. My position is not a big scorer position. We're more of a defender, distribute things out. Wasn't a big gun in the team anyways. I just did my job. And I don't know, to be there and to do that, it was kind of it reassured the belief that I had that it's cool to care. Because this is something I didn't mention before. During those 9 months of COVID season and the second season of 2021, I was at some point do I care too much? I get that a lot of myself. I asked, but it's cool to care. It's cool to do good. It pays off. At some point, it pays off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Denting. My name is Fernando Andrade. I am your host, and today I have a very special guest here with me. Nikos, how are you?
You're not going to say my last name?
I was gonna mess around with you just because of the last podcast I heard. I'm gonna go for it, and you can correct me or not. Nikos Delagrammatikas.
Perfect.
Delagrammatikas.
Yeah.
But it's not. I also noticed your name isn't Nikos. It's Nikolaos, right?
Yeah, it's given name is Nikolaos because that's kind of how you do the names in Greece. Names are either ancient Greek or they're Orthodox, where you're named after a saint. So Saint Nikolaos. And then nobody calls you Nikolaos or Nicolas, really, they just call you Nikos. It's I don't know, Samuel to Sam.
Oh, it's fair.
Same thing. So, yeah, I always everything is Nikolaos, but I always Nikos. But in Greece, everybody calls me by my last name because there's so many Nikoses that doesn't, but yeah.
So, Delagrammatikas is what they call you back home.
Perfect, yes.
See, I just wanted to mess around with you. I'm not forgetting that. I'll see how you react. But yeah, a lot of things going on. Before we even start, thank you for the coffee. Cheers to that. First person that has brought coffee on the pod, so
love that.
I appreciate that. I figured we start like that because it's an interview, but it's more of a conversation. I won't let it flow just like we did last time we got coffee. But
nice.
How do you feel about that? Why bring coffee? You were I won't come empty-handed. And we've talked about our cultures. You're from Greece, Spanish family. I'm from San Diego, Mexican family. I was literally just talking about this with Monica upstairs last night. Juan, who's my roommate, they're both from Spain, talking about this.
That's I feel first of all, in Greece, it's kind of you anywhere you go, you usually don't go empty-handed, especially if it's an occasion. I mean, I don't think we have specific occasions for podcasts, but, no matter where you go, everything you have to bring something. I literally got in an argument with one of my best Greek friends because she's hosting Friendsgiving, and I'm what should I bring? She's nothing, because it's also accustomed to, if you host somebody, you don't let anybody bring anything. So, I don't know. It's kind of a thing. I like coffee. I think we'll get the brains firing, so it's good.
No, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was raised that way, too, and I love that you bring that up, and something I've had to learn to do is, usually I'd be oh no, I'll get it or something. But it's if I'm doing that for other people, I have to let them do it as well. You know what I mean? The same thing with your friend, which is the hard part. But if you were hosting, maybe she'd be what can I bring? What can I bring? Oh, nothing.
Same thing with I mean, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I feel it's a little difficult to mitigate. But same thing with Venmos and stuff. I don't know how it's for you, but when I host my people on my house, nobody Venmo me anything. If you come over for dinner, I got you. Otherwise, I wouldn't invite you. However, when you're in college, it's a good custom to split the money because we're students, we don't have much to live on. So yeah, but going off the culture stuff, I think it's definitely going to come up a bunch in the podcast because it's a very very big thing of going to a new place that you have to understand the culture, have to bring some of your culture with you, and it's it's an interesting game that you have to learn as you grow up.
Yeah, no, 100%, and I just figured it was an interesting way to start because it's the obvious way. Also, you're first one of the new notebook, a lot of new things. We were already talking with 48 Laws of Power, so I'm excited about this. But before we even dive into any of this, would you like to introduce yourself for those that may not know you?
Yeah, so my name is Nikos Delagrammatikas, as Fer said. I play water polo at Cal, graduated. Also, sorry, I'm asking this on air. Should I look at you or the camera?
Whatever.
I prefer to look at you.
Yeah, I mean, it's our conversation.
Nikos Delagrammatikas. I played water polo at Cal from 2017 to December 21 last year. I was the captain of the team last year, and I studied environmental economics, and I did a little focus in finance on the side. So I come from Greece and Spain, born in Greece and raised like in a household with Spanish mother, Greek dad. Both things were very prominent. So like I always say I'm half and half. You know, when people ask me like how's that, I'm like, trust me, if you knew my mom, you would understand. So yeah, that's about it. And play water polo since I can remember. Wasn't very good at any other sports like soccer. Like my dad was very happy when I asked to like switch from soccer to water polo. He's like, that fit very well for you. But yeah, I don't know. Came to the States for the first time August 2017 for Cal. And right now, I'm graduating. I'm working. Started working last February, and yeah, just sticking around Berkeley for this year, and we'll see where life takes me in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's awesome. Well, definitely, you missed out a big part of your resume, being a national champion as well, right? You're too humble. You're too humble about everything you do. Is that something you do with everything or no?
That's it. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's different. Like culture. Each culture, maybe.
I was literally gonna say
it's
that.
Like, I don't know. You just like Nikos, like it's not like a title. There's like the British titles that they have, like OB and stuff. Like just like it's also like in the past. Like I don't know. You don't. Okay. Long story short, I love this. The reason I don't like to say this is because like it's in the past and you want to fix your future. You never want to be the guy who like lives in the past. And it's not who I am. It's what I did. It's kind of like different, Like water polo is not who I am, but it's part of what I did and what my life was.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you don't need to. People know, or will come up in conversation.
It was obviously gonna come up. Yeah. It's just interesting everything. Like even for context, people that don't know, I told you, let's do a podcast because for me it's like the way to just meet people, have those conversations. It's easy, right? Mm-hmm. And you were like, let's get coffee first, and I was like, okay, interesting. We can definitely do that. But then you were like, I just wanted to see like if I could bring something to the podcast. That's why I was like. I don't know, it's like different in every sense, and I just wanted to start with that, like, coffee, different. The coffee first instead of podcast, like, it's just different, unique, it's cool. I'm not saying it's not, it's just...
I just think that, like, I like any connection that I have with anybody to be genuine. That was with my teammates too and everything, like, to know that I like to be, like, a truthful person. And it's not that people that, will show up and do the podcast are not truthful by any means, it's just my way of being. And it's just kind of like, let's get the vibe, see how it's going to be. Maybe we want to talk about some stuff ahead of time, kind of plan it. Because we had a very good conversation on Strata. And I don't know, it was also in the interest of the podcast. So if this is our second conversation, serious conversation, like you already know where you want to go and you kind of know a little bit about me. I wanted to learn about you too. So yeah, it's kind of...
From the start, right? You mentioned that you played water polo because you weren't necessarily good at other sports. How did that work? What was your, like, when did you start playing water polo? What was it like growing up, your childhood for you?
Okay, so if you see where I grew up, my hometown is called Vouliagmeni. You can't even spell it, it's fine. It's outside of Athens, like by the beach. Used to be like this place that used to be only like for summer houses back in the 70s when my grandpa bought the house where he would go with my dad and my grandma and his brother. And it's just a big water polo and swimming town only for the summer. And as years go by, it started getting a little more populated, like Athens started spreading out, Vouliagmeni became kind of people like lived all year long. And the water polo team there has always been legendary. From like the 80s and the 90s. And I kind of double around sports. So I come from a family where my dad did swimming and water polo in the summers. In the winter, he didn't because he wasn't a very good student. So my grandparents were like, you gotta study first. But in the summers, they were in Vouliagmeni for like 3-4 months. They were playing water polo and swimming at the same pool that I grew up with. And my mom played basketball. She was Spanish like junior national team and stuff. So she knew very well the path. And from a very young age, they pushed me. Not that they didn't push me. They were like, sports are good. What do you want to try? Started with soccer. I wasn't good, and like I didn't like the atmosphere there. I didn't like the coaches. Didn't have a lot of fun. Also because I wasn't good, but also because of the environment. Tried basketball because height. It's kind of like right in Greece, like you're told you should play basketball. That wasn't very much my thing either. And the minute I don't know, I learned how to swim when I was 3. Like I've always loved the water. My dad is an avid scuba diver and did a bunch of stuff with it. Now he has a company with it, so I was very drawn to the water. So when my buddy kind of came up to me, his older sister played already at Vouliagmeni, and he's like, I'm going to go try a polo. We were like 3rd grade. And his mom was like, you should take Nicolas with you because I was like the biggest kid. And my dad was like, where? In the pool? She's like, yeah. And they went there. Same coach that used to coach my dad was the head coach of the whole club at the time. And kind of started with that. I was still playing a little bit of basketball, a little bit of tennis, kind of doubling around, trying to find what I like. But it was very clear very soon that I was like, I had some predisposition, like I was decent at it from a young age, and I liked it a lot. And the guys were good, and I don't know, it clicked. And from third to like sixth grade, it was kind of like, okay, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Like my parents still wanted me to try other stuff. And then 7th grade, which is our first year of junior high, because we have 6, 3, and 3 instead of, what is in America? 8, like 6, 2, and 4.
In America, it's 8, 4, 8 and 4. Yeah. Pretty much like, or no, sorry, because that's elementary. It is 6, 2, 4. And 4.
Yeah, so we have 6, 3, 3. So anyways, I was about like 13, 12. Going the first day of the summer training, this new coach took over a younger team for the first time, and he kind of like pulled me to the side after a week. He's like, listen, like, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right. You're gonna train. We're gonna train every day. And like, he actually is a coach that made me like the player that I am. He coached me for 6 years straight, and he kind of got me on it. And I don't know, the rest is history. Like, I just never really missed a practice after I got super serious with it and really started thinking of a future. So that's how I got started. And yeah. It was a very good environment to grow up. Well, I can talk more about it, but I don't want to deviate from the question.
No. I mean, it's your podcast, your episode. But like what you were saying, what age was that when you started getting serious? Just to put a number on it, because you were
it was 2010, so I would be 12 years old.
12 years old, and you said 7th grade, pretty much.
Yeah, 7th grade.
First of secondary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's also when school starts to get a bit more serious. And
correct.
Yeah, and I listened to, like I said, the other podcasts you've done, at least one of them that I could find. And
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. I didn't do that many.
Yeah.
For the audience.
Here we go. We'll do plenty. But yeah, and you were mentioning like the concept of student athlete, which I've talked about with other Europeans here as well. But you talked about it in a bit more of you gave more examples per se, and you were very straightforward about like, it just does not exist at all, like the concept of student athlete, and how that's a challenge for all of you.
So like, I think it's a beautiful thing how much America like invests in like sports and the way you guys go about it. Like, there's no question that you have so many super athletes coming of this country. From obviously it's a huge country, like it's kind of like a continent on its own. But like it's insane, and it's beautiful because you get people that can. The concept that I couldn't grasp until like 2 years ago is like there's people that could get drafted for baseball and football, or like football and like whatever, like something else at the age of 17, which means they've played the same sport like well. They play more than one sport and they've done it well. So like in Europe is the opposite. You kind of start, you pick a sport, and if you're gonna go with it, like really you kind of start investing into it like 13, 14 years old, which is very early because your body hasn't developed. So for the people that give up too early, like you don't know where your capabilities are. How do you know you're not gonna hit a growth spurt at 16, which a lot of people did and just like dominated. Speaking of my roommate was the player of the year 3 years in a row. He was an okay player until one year he just like everything changed.
Wow.
So like going back to that, like they make you choose, and they make you choose in a way which is kind of like very subtle at the beginning. So school, there's an obvious thing where it's like, oh, he's the athlete, so we're not going to pay attention to him because sooner or later he's going to stop caring about school. So, talk about discrimination maybe. Those words aren't used very much in Europe where I come from, but it's true. Like, you kind of like get pushed to the side. And on the water polo, the sports side is even harder because it's a tangible difference because you are going to miss a couple practices at least. And as much as you have all of your shit together, you're going to miss a couple practices, like maybe a private lesson, maybe like an office hours, maybe an exam that came, something. And that starts getting looked down upon. And, personally, I think it's for many reasons. Like, some people just don't think that you can do both without being harsh. They just don't think. Other people are kind of envious. Other people are kind of resentful. So, for multitude of reasons, like, you just cannot do both. Or that's what you're told. And I just, like, chose personally, like, not to like, adhere to that from, like, a very young age. I was like, I was lucky because I'm a pretty good, like, auditory learner. Like, I can pick up things from class, so I didn't need to study very much until really for those first years. But I was there. Like, in class, I was there. I wasn't on my phone. I was there. And I'm also, like, very, very competitive. So I want to do well in school. And when I started getting serious with water polo is when I met my best friend, who is kind of, is good.
Oh, yeah, you're good. I just have to look around because, so it doesn't disconnect or anything. You're good.
Oh, good. But yeah, like, that year was also the year I met my friend who's, like, very, very good at school, my best friend. And he was also a soccer player. and very good at schools too. So we were both kind of like, F this. We're going to be the best at school, and we're also going to do very well at our sports, which we did. And he was a very big reason why I was like very attentive at school, because he was better than me at anything. So at everything. So I was like trying to beat him in all the exams. So that's kind of how it went. And going through like high school, like even with my dad, who's like very worried about school, he was like, when are you going to stop playing water polo to focus on school, because you have to take the exams, whatever. And it came to a point so I was 17. I came back from my first junior Europeans where I got bronze. And, he's like, are you thinking, you're going to focus on school now and like leave it? And there were multiple conversations during the years where I was a little discouraged, and it was kind of like, let's leave water polo. And massive props to my mom for being like, you can do both. You just, just go out a little less. You can do it if you want to. So she taught me a lot through that. And when I was 17, started getting a little bit of interest on the States. First from UCLA, actually. And at the time, I was kind of went up to my dad. I'm like, listen, I can do both. Like, you just got to trust me to do this. And they were both like, okay, let's do this. Let's figure out a way, What do you have to do? What type of class you have to take? Because, you have to take everything in English. And I've been doing math and whatever in Greek so far. So that too. And kind of like, that's how I dealt with it. But in Europe, it's like a very foreign concept. And it's sad because you see great athletes and people that are super healthy stop 2 years, because our SATs are very competitive because all the universities are public and there's very few spaces. So you have to go balls to the wall. Like, people will go to school and they will go to like private lessons for like 5 hours every day. You see people waste 2 of their best years just to get into university, and then the next year they're so burned out they don't even go to class. Like, it's just something that I refuse to adhere. And I was very, very fortunate to have the parents that were like, okay, let's figure out a way to do this right. Not, F the system and whatever. Just like, let's figure out to like game it the way we have to game it and see what you can do. So that's how it worked out. And what you guys do here is amazing. I mean, could it be better? Is it like Berkeley hard as like student athlete? Are there people that understand more and people that understand less? Yeah, but like that's life. Like, you're not gonna have everybody on the same page.
No. Well, what do you think could be better about the system right here? Like, you mentioned how the system doesn't exist back home, but how could you make the current system in the United States better, in your opinion?
I think that, I'm no one to like say what they should be doing, but from my experience with Berkeley, like, I don't know how it is in high school, first of all, so like, you guys know about that, but from my experience with Berkeley, there were some times where it was kind of like, listen, man, like, I have to travel, I'm trying to win an NCAA Championship, let me take the midterm, even earlier, like, it's okay, I don't have to take a little bit, just like, let's talk. And when you're met with that, no type of answers, kind of like, I'm human, let's talk, please. Like, and granted, like, dude, probably some of the emails I wrote to my professors, I wasn't explaining very well because it was my second year in the States. I didn't know how to type in English properly. I don't know how to explain it, but just kind of like meet me in the middle. I understand there's a lot of issues between athletics and academics and debts and money. Like, that's always there. But at the end of the day, we're humans. Like, why not sit down and talk and you can understand? Because I've seen professors that can do it. So why are the other people not able to do it? That's my kind of question.
No, that makes perfect sense. I haven't really had that issue yet.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I've definitely had friends that told me, like, oh, we have that issue. Oh, we can't wear certain gear to school because they immediately see you as an athlete, especially at a school like Berkeley, right, where it's like such a tough school. But no, that makes sense.
To preface this, we're not angels either. Like, I'm sure people have their own reasons to like have a little bit of like a negative connotation about athletes at times. But let's not take a one person and make it a pattern recognition thing about everybody. Like, we're just different.
Like generalizing. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
There's, I guess, and I say this often, and it correlates to the conversation we had last time. Like, stereotypes exist for a reason, right? Like,
that's how we work.
They weren't made up. They exist for a reason. With that being said, you can't assume the stereotype for everyone. So, for example, athletes, they're gonna be X, Y, and Z, but you can't assume that everybody's gonna be X, Y, and Z. But you can take a good bet. If you had to bet on it, you probably should. But with that being said, that's not going to be everyone. Oh, every athlete doesn't care about school. X, Y, Z, Nikos cares about school. Fer cares about school. These people care about school. But the other 8 out of the 10 don't.
No, I understand. And it's hard for like the professor to sit there and be like, okay, I can't like, take a bet with all of you and assume that all of you are going to be good because some of you, okay, so I understand that side too, but it's, it's hard. Nonetheless, though, it's a great system. Like the fact that, dude, we are in one of the top schools in the world, playing a sport and getting provided for everything. And again, we talked about this because I think that I spoke a little bit about that I come from like humble backgrounds. it's good to see. I think Jack Clark says this, that the rugby coach is like grateful for everything and thankful for nothing. I think that's a good way to like live life. On the flip side, yes, let's see where we could improve, but let's not forget that we are where we are. And
no, 100%. I mean, I'm Cal Athletics.
We agree. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of Cal Athletics. Could things be better? Yes, but I think it's the same thing as competition, right? It's that competitive thing. If we weren't competitive, we wouldn't be talking about these things because we just want it to be the best. That's it.
Exactly. I think you always have people like you and me that will sit down and talk about it and be like, how can we do this? Because we were having a coffee and we're talking about this. Like, okay, can we talk to coaches? Do we know anybody like in the department where we can be like, hey, we would love to help with this. So I think that's good, and I think there's progress. And again, it's a beautiful thing that you can play sports, and because like that you asked, like it's insane. Like nobody else does it in the world anywhere. So it's insane.
Yeah. Before we move forward, let me just because I moved it a bit. All right, you're in there. Cool. The thing you were asking, like if I do like all this, or like when you asked like why I was looking around, so. For me, I just have to make sure, since I do this entire thing just by myself in the same moment, like, you got to think about it. You said before, like, one day we'll have something else. One day somebody will be looking at the cameras. I won't have to worry about the interface. I won't have to be looking at the system that has my audio. But right now I have to look that this is on, that's on, and that this is on while I have a conversation with you. So that's the only reason.
I totally understand. I mean, like, I've seen the. I haven't obviously like admittedly after this, haven't watched all the podcasts, but like I've watched a couple, especially when you started and like all the way. Dude, it's evolving great. Like it's part of the process.
No, it's definitely part of the process. But I love what you were saying right there, and my next thing that comes to thought. I mean, you were bilingual, now you're trilingual. I think your English is amazing. If you started speaking 5-6 years ago, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I was very lucky because both of my parents studied abroad. That's where they met. They met in London. So it was a very trilingual household very early on. At first, our parents used to speak in English when they were talking about some of these issues. They didn't want us to like understand or worry. But then we all quickly learned English very fast. And my mom is a teacher of Spanish and English. So we had the resources there. And I don't know, just you learned to understand a language really easy. It's way easier to learn to understand a language than to learn how to speak it. Like for me, I understood, like I watched movies and everything with subtitles from a young age, and I learned English that way. I always say that like I learned a lot of English from like Eminem because I love his songs, and I try to learn the lyrics and I try to like speak them and like be able to speak them fast too. And then the last thing I did to learn English, which I did when I was in the States, because I don't know, I needed to communicate more because of my position. I started listening to mic'd up players in the NBA, mainly Draymond Green, because he is a phenomenal, like if you like listen to him, it's insane. So that's how I kind of learned it. And it's true, like, when you kind of develop that part of your brain earlier, it's easier to pick up languages. Like I picked up on Portuguese with a course here in Berkeley my last spring, so spring 2021. And you can learn it if you have the muscle. Like I'm assuming same thing with you, like you grow up with two languages, like it's easier to learn a third one. Like when my Serbian and Croatian friends like tell me a phrase, like I'll pick it up on it. I'm not saying I learn how to speak it, but you pick up the patterns, the changes in the tone, how the letter sounds, and all that stuff. Yeah,
and honestly, like for me, I never had like a first language. I just learned both at the same time.
Same.
But yeah, I mean, I tried a few other languages, like 2 other languages.
Which ones?
Okay, so. One I tried it twice, which was Mandarin, and that was just a failure completely.
I've heard that one is very hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard. And the other one, it was just for a high school class. It was French. And I never was very invested in the class, but it wasn't very difficult either because it's like very similar to, for me it was like combining a bit of Spanish and English, and last semester I had French roommates here, like just for one semester, and I could understand what they were saying. Like they would speak to me in French. I haven't studied French, and I was like, I was replying in English, and it worked out.
That's what I was saying with I talk about this with my mom all the time, that if you have the basis, which is usually, like Spanish is a very good basis because it's the most simplified one. It's the one that sounds the most like what you read is what that sounds like. Then Italian, I would say it goes, Spanish is the most plain. Then Italian, it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to pronunciation and how the conjugations go. Portuguese is pretty much Spanish, but with an accent, which is one of my favorite languages. And then French is just like, you read it and you learn the grammar, but pronunciation is like a whole nother thing. Because I took French for 2 years in junior high school, like 7th and 8th grade. And you could write and you could figure out the spelling and what everything meant, but the pronunciation was like a whole nother.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
It's definitely different. And even like Italian and Portuguese that you mentioned, like when I've traveled to those countries, I could speak in Spanish, and if they kind of understood, they'd reply, and I'd understand, then we'd just make it work. But that's how that goes. Anyways, going back to your story, tell me a bit more about like that friend that you mentioned, right? Like how that competitive edge
my best friend
helped. Yeah, how it helped each other, like to push each other for academics and like athletics as well. You mentioned like your mom saying that, oh, you can make it all work out. You just have to like maybe not go out as much every now and then, and finding that balance. Did having a best friend like that help you move forward?
I mean, me and him always talk about it. Like every time I go back and we're just like, casually having a drink, whatever. We always we like to have this conversation, like, where we were 5 years ago, or like what next 5 years look like. And because of the place we grew up, like a lot of people kind of like stayed there stagnant and never left. We kind of like, I wonder if we would have done so well if we wouldn't have found each other. Because we were like, I don't know, we were very like 1-2 punch. Like we couldn't, how do you say this? Like we weren't very like, because we were the kids that were trying to do sports and also took school seriously. And we made people look bad. And I say this like in a very humble way. Like we were just like able to do both. And we didn't go out as much, and we didn't have the same friend group, so we were kind of like me and him, so all we had to base was off of each other. And even though I did a little better like athletically, like he was just like in the classroom I could never like reach him. Like he would understand math, whatever, and everything. But going back to it, it's kind of like, I think that two things that have helped me a lot in my life have been mentors and like that type of like life partners. Like I have a couple friends which like growing together at the same time. And because when you're trying to do things that are different than normal, it gets lonely at any age, and I don't think it gets easier. You just like learn how to deal with being alone a lot. Having a person like that is very important. On the classroom side, it was kind of like, okay, like every time we start to sleep and I would start to like ask him to like pass me the answers or whatever, he would like turn up and be like, this is the last time I'm like helping you out, like you need to go study because you're gonna stay behind. Like that for a friend that's like 13, for him to tell me that and for me not to get pissed and understand it, like we had a very, very special connection, and that's why we like, we see each other every 11 months and we're always like brothers. Yeah. So that was like that part of it that helped me get through school and helped me build good basis, because my mom was never a helicopter parent. She wouldn't like open my notebooks and see what I'm doing. So I learned a lot of my studying patterns from him. And when it comes to the discipline, like just my mom taught me very well, like I don't even like, it's not determination, it's not discipline, it's kind of like doing what you said you're gonna do. And it was very simple because like we don't have much. It's just like if we paid for this water polo team or tennis team or whatever, we're gonna do this, and then you can stop next year. There's none of like missing practice or whatever, like none of that. It's just like, and if you want to go deeper into that, instills a lot of kind of like how to take care of the family, and like if the family invests in something, you need to honor, and I think that's a good thing to have. But yeah, she like told me very much, we go here, we do this, we're gonna do it well. And she sat me down and she told me, listen, you don't even know if you don't like something, you haven't done it well, because only if you do it well is when, only if you do something like fully committed, that's when you know if you like it truly or not. Because if you're half-assing something and you're not getting results, you don't get to say this sucks. No, you haven't done it right. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So I was kind of like, something that's instilling me a lot from like, because she came from a similar background, like all of her and her siblings, 5 of them, all basketball, same thing, like practice every day. And she was kind of telling me, if you don't like it, that's fine. I'll see you in May, but until May, you're practicing.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to start out like even the culture and asking those questions, because that's how I was raised, like if you start something, you're going to finish it, no questions asked, like it just has to go that way. And I mean, it's part of the conversation we had last time, right? But it's like that understanding that we have with each other, like just last night, I was literally having a conversation with the same 2 people I mentioned, right, Juan and Monica, and we were literally talking about like how people, obviously here, right, like we're in Berkeley, how people aren't going to understand certain things that we do, but that doesn't mean that we're in the wrong for it, if that makes sense. Like, or sorry, I meant it the other way around. So what we could perceive as, oh, that was a bad thing, it wasn't their intention for it to come off as bad, it's just a difference culturally. But I think it sets you up with an advantage, don't you think so?
I think that you make a great point, because I think that was the biggest thing that I learned as being a captain. And I know this was gonna like obviously come up in the conversations, just like so number one, like to like close off what we were saying, like your roots are very important, and like how you grow up, because it connects you very differently with people, which I think is beautiful. However, like the opposite is also presents a beautiful opportunity. Like to bridge a gap between 2 people that come from very different cultures is one of the most beautiful things, because like that's kind of like you have to go to a level of understanding, which I arrived with a lot of my teammates, and that's where like very, very close. So yeah, going on what you said, I personally, like my first 2 years in the US, I didn't have a good time at all. Most of the time, I was out of sync, and I use this word like very specifically, out of sync with everything, with my circle, with my team, with everything, because I couldn't accept different cultures. And if I couldn't accept different cultures, I couldn't explain them why I'm different and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And I think that's on the flip side is one of the reasons like our team did so well, because we kind of like sat down and we saw like, okay, this can go two ways. Internationals can go this way and Americans can go that way, or we can all come together, see the trophy and go towards the trophy as far as we can go. And I think that, yes, it's very important. And as you said, if you look at it the right way, it's empathy. You can't be mad at somebody for doing something the way they're taught. If you explain to them a couple of times and they still choose to neglect your feelings, your perception of things, then it's a different conversation. But at first, like your get-go should be like, let's talk about this. So yeah, I agree. It's a very interesting, and I think every single international person goes with it. And as we're doing this, like flip side, every American person goes this. Dude, people in the US barely leave the US before they're 18. How are they supposed to know how to like, kind of like understand different perspectives that much? Like if you've grown up with the same people all the time, you can't expect for somebody to accept you at the same time. For them to truly accept you, you have to meet each other in the middle, truly. So that's a very good lesson. It was a very good lesson for me, and I always talk about it. It's kind of like, I damaged myself by not like sitting down and be like, let me take a little bit of the culture, first of all, because I'm here. I can't be imposing my flag. First of all, it's very rude. Second of all, it's not very smart because I'm alone. So you're probably outnumbered. Third, like, it's tiring, man. Just, go with the flow a little bit and, figure things out.
Yeah. I literally just posted a clip, I think it was last week, the episode with Robin Neumann. And I mentioned it, like only 30% of Americans have a passport. And that goes to show how...
I saw that clip.
Yes, how little... just how little Americans may know about other countries. And she made a good point, which I agree with, that it's like, well, every state in the United States is basically like its own little country, and there's very different cultures and very different ways of living. Even for me, I'm from Southern California. Northern California culture, very different. College American culture, very different to what I was used to. With that being said, I think you have to expand your ideas and experiences and everything with some internationals if you have that ability, whether it's by going or by reading or watching videos from people that are from different places, because if not, like you said, it's very complicated to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the best thing that can happen is like, I cannot wait for all of my teammates to get to Greece and Spain, and I can take them scuba diving so we can go to the restaurants that I've grown up with. Like, it's a beautiful thing. Like, if you do it right, like you exchange culture with somebody, it's super important. Like, people always wanted to travel. Since we could make boats and freaking ride, like people would travel anywhere because like all the biggest that you read about, the kings, everybody wanted to travel, wanted to see, like they were in Europe, they wanted to see what's up in Asia. They were in Asia, they wanted to see what's up in Europe. They were looking at this, like you want to, it's just that you don't know how to at the beginning. And once you learn to communicate, I think it's a great thing. And whatever you said about the United States, like 50 different countries, like everybody's different, like you guys have different accents basically of English. Like, it's crazy. It's a humongous place. Obviously people are not going to travel, and it's not easy, like financially. But yeah, I think that you're presented with a unique opportunity. Like, I have a family here, and I say this like with all my heart, like people that I'm very, very close with. And if I'm trying to stay here for a couple of years, maybe more, who knows, it's important to build those bonds. You can't like go through life alone.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and it's important to find that communication, which we'll get to in a bit. But on your path to even get there in the first place, you were taking both things seriously. You had the support from your parents, which I'm sure makes a huge difference, from your best friends as well. You played on the junior national team, and then you started getting looks, you said, at 17 to come to the United States. I'm not very big on the sport of water polo yet. With that being said, actually, you're the first water polo player that I've had on the podcast, so...
You have to prep a podcast with the boys when hopefully in December.
Yeah, no, I mean, on my list, I mean, this will be out after, but I can't pronounce his name, I just know they call him Papa, and then Adrian, for sure.
Yes.
So, and you'll let me know which other ones afterwards, we'll figure that out, but...
I got you.
I'm super excited, actually, that it's going to be here. I think I already told you, right? That's big time.
Dude, it's... Because last time was here we won, 2016.
and 16 inspired you, which is, didn't it? That's at the time you were committing to Cal, right?
Yes. So this way this happened. I didn't mention this. So one of my best friends, my captain since I first stepped into water polo, and one of my best friends, Odie, short for Odysseus, he came to Cal 2 years before me, and he came in 2015, and obviously very close. 2015 when he gets here, I do win the bronze medal, and I start talking with UCLA, and he's like, listen, if you're gonna do this right, email everybody and email Kirk, who is the coach. So I sit down with my mom, and we just kind of like go through like any website of athletics that has water polo, make a huge Excel sheet, and we write down names, emails of all the coaches and whatever, like just freaking. It's funny because I'm doing sales and I'm pretty much doing the same thing, and I did that when I was 17. Anyways, so we do this, and I started having conversations with a couple schools in the West Coast, a couple schools in the East Coast. And as I'm doing this, obviously, like, Berkeley's like my number one for school, and UCLA is my number two. For school and for other reasons, like Odie being there was like a huge part of it, because, like, again, he's like my older brother. We've always been very close. And as this is happening, they win the championship in 2016. And I had just verbally committed, I verbally committed like the spring of 2016 and signed like the NLI, whatever that's called, January of 17. Anyways, so in the meantime, I've kind of like said no to everyone else, and they win the championship. I'm like, let's go. Long story short, I get here and I don't win the championship for the first 4 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Everything happens for a reason, and like, you know, we closed it out the right way. But yeah, it was definitely like a big thing.
It's part of the ride for sure. And I mean, to your point about the Excels, which is hilarious, because I had to do that my junior year, and it's the exact same thing. My dad was like, sit your ass down. You're gonna Google best schools that you want, best soccer schools. You're gonna match them. You're gonna put in all the coaches' emails. You're gonna make a draft, and you're gonna start sending them out. And I've said that, right? But I don't tell that to people. People come here, like, on this podcast, and they're like, yeah, my parents made me do this Excel sheet. Yeah, they said, and it's like, see, that's why we're all here in one way or another.
Exactly.
And then I mentioned this as well, and as we start getting more into water polo, it's not that I have to say this, but personally, I always feel like obligated to say it, right? Okay. I think I can talk about your sport or your journey as much as you want. I'm nowhere near like that level, if that makes sense, right? With that being said, I think the beauty of this podcast, like the best lesson it's taught me, which I've mentioned her so many times at this point. She's been on the podcast a lot. I talk about this a lot with Cameron Rogers. She's always, everybody reacts to, everybody loves Cameron. If she's seen this, Cameron, we all love you.
Oh, she better be watching it. I met her my last semester of school, and we're just like, every time I see her, I just give her the bigger hug, because she's a sweetheart, and she's a stud. Like, her
hugs are the best. Those are great hugs.
She's always so smiley. It's like, oh my god. Like, we were like doing problem sets for like international trade at like 2 a.m. She would be like, this is so funny. We'd be like, Cameron.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Anyways, like, the best thing she has taught me.
Talk about another person that's super humble. Like,
oh my gosh!
I shouted out like in front of the whole class, Cameron, because like the professor didn't know we had an Olympian, because we won the championship. We went for a study. I'm like, you have an Olympian sitting over there like the whole semester. Like, the professor's like, what?
Dude, like, yeah, she is extremely humble, and no, she's awesome. We became friends through the podcast pretty much. She's been here multiple times, and anyways, the best thing she has taught me has been that you don't have to be as good athletically per se, right? And I'm not saying I'm not a good athlete. I'm at Cal, right? With that being said, I think representing your national team at whatever age, winning a national championship, like, it's different for everyone. For Cameron, it was like being an Olympian, being in the finals, being number 2 in the world. Like, it's just different. But what unites us all is like the mentality and the way to do things. And people may be like, and you can give your take on this, especially being part of an elite team, but many people within Cal Athletics, let's say 900 student athletes, there's so many different people and stuff like that. Maybe an interest, maybe athletically, but the way we go about our lives, you'd be surprised by finding the similarities. Like, for example, if somebody looks up Fernando Andrade, calbears.com, Nikos Delagrammatikas, calbears.com, they're going to be like, Nikos is way more accomplished Athletically. No, I didn't accomplish much athletically, trust me. You're way more accomplished.
Okay.
And you just look at those stats, right? But if we sit down and have this conversation and we're talking about, how we grew up, how our parents raised us, how this, the Excel sheet, and it's like, whoa, we have so many things in common. We, like, not the exact same person, but there's little things like that, you know?
There's, like, I think that you said it right at the beginning of this, I don't know exactly what you said. You said something like, we go through the same thing. Like, I think, like, what unites people is, like, the hardships. I think that's why. Like, that's the number one thing that if it was the other way, only the NCAA champions would hang out together, and then only, like, it doesn't work like that. I mean, there is a different level of understanding, but even between a team that's not as, like, at the same tier, let's say, you have people that take things very seriously. So at the end of the day, I think is, like, as you said, mentality, experiences, like, culturally, and then what you've gone through, like, hardships. Like, I've talked with so many athletes, like, a lot of athletes in the school from all different sports, and for some of them I connect because of backgrounds, culture, country, foreigners, whatever. With others I connect because we kind of have the same mentality about some stuff, and with others I connect because we're just going through the same stuff. Like, if I met somebody from a completely different sport that I didn't even know how to play last fall when I was interviewing, he or she was interviewing for the same type of role, going through the same stuff, talk about a connection. Like, that's what unites us. Like, I don't know, that you and I, different, like, same backgrounds but, like, different sports, never really met. We talk, we have, like, aspirations about life, we connect about that, we connect about our past, we talk about books, for example. So, like, yeah, I think everybody, like, we should do a better job as human beings to, like, connect with each other, because we have way more things in common than we're doing in different. And it's sad because to see, like, today, like, everything is super divisive, and, like, we're all the same at the end of the day. Like, it's, I don't know, it's very humbling. Like, everybody's the same, everybody goes through the same stuff, we eat the same food, we like the same stuff. It's very simple.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think there's beauty in just realizing that and finding that. Like, that's my biggest thing right now, like, in this current season of my podcasting career so far, I would say, is, like, what's pushing me and motivating me right now is finding purpose and inspiration through interaction and conversation. Like, that's what keeps me going. Every time I sit down and I'm doing this, it's quote. Like, yeah, I just wrote it in my notes the other day, like, and I just had it, and it's like, that's what we're doing here, like, finding this inspiration from what you're doing so that I can do what I want to do, or to learn, or to just, like, connect, and realize, like, in such a divided world, in such a disconnected world, in the sense that we're all just looking at some screen or something, it's like, wow, maybe we sit down and have a conversation. It's like, there's so much more to life, and in something as basic as just listening to each other and having a conversation.
I like that. Like, I don't know, I think that's something that culturally I try to bring a lot to my team, and they made fun of me because of that, but we did it a lot back home, is having a coffee, man. Like, we need to teach people here to, like, sit down and have a coffee. Like, it's the best way to connect with anybody. Just, no stresses. Just sit down and talk, and you'll see some pain point is going to come about. It's the same thing. It's, like, easy to connect. But yeah, I think it is a skill, though, to, like, build connections. Yeah. It's a skill that some people have a little more of a natural tendency. Some people need to work on it, but it's definitely a skill. And wanting to be a leader in a community, in a team, in a family, anywhere, in any setting, like, you have to have that number one, that by far. Like, that's the first thing I learned, and I had to implement in order to, like, kind of, like, do what I wanted to do as a captain.
Yeah.
Like, bringing people together is the most important thing, and how do you do that? By understanding where everybody's coming from and find those common points and, like, tie them together.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely agree, like, with that. And then also, I mean, you start talking about, like, getting here and everything. I just want to touch real quick on your, like, representing Greece, right?
And Spain.
Oh, you represented both.
Oh, you mean like a national team?
Yes, national team.
Oh, no, Greece only.
Yeah, like in juniors, you were a world junior champion. You had this great thing, and 15 guys from your team, you mentioned, 2 came to the States. The other 13 are either in Greece or somewhere else still playing.
Freaking studs. They're all, like, kicking ass.
Yeah.
Like, me and Odie, my friend, were both in the senior team, in the junior worlds team. So because we didn't, like, we won bronze Europeans 2017. 2018 we got 5th and 6th for Europeans and Worlds in, like, 97, 98 born. And then summer 2017, 2015 I was 17, and 2017 I was 19. Right before I came to the States, we won Junior Worlds. From that team, 2 of us came to the States. The other 11, one of them is kind of playing a little less, but like the other 10 people, 6 of them went to the senior team that won silver to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And the other 4 were either at the preparation, like out of the 13 people that went, there were the other 4, like they're just like, some of them playing pro in Croatia, some of them playing pro in Greece, some of them in Serbia right now, just kicking ass. Like I was so lucky to be part of that generation, and this is not me being humble, like I was very lucky, like I was the last person to get into that bus. Like by all means, the whole summer preparing for that, I was stressing my ass off trying to like get into that team because first of all, I was super invested and I loved the guys, we were very close. And also because like it was such a good generation to play, like really, it hasn't happened before where a team like Greece goes that well. Usually Serbia, Croatia, Hungary, and Montenegro, maybe Italy. So to be part of that was just like, okay, for that to be my last game with the national team, winning world championships in Serbia, like it was just perfect way to close that. And I don't know, it helps you move on because you know that once you come to the States, the kind of dream of going back kind of dies down a little bit. So it was just like spot on.
With that being said, like you have that experience,
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense now that you're saying like in the spot on the roster spot and things like that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned all those countries that are really good in the sport.
Historically, yeah, the best.
Once you come to the United States, in a way, it's like you're no longer aspiring in the sport, or is that like I'm assuming that, but I don't know if that's true.
It's a combination of things like you can't put the blame on both sides. Like on one side, it's a two-way thing. Like take me and take the other 11 that stayed back. Take me and my friend that came here and take the other 11. We are playing at a level that's like way lower here because we're playing in college. They're playing pro with 25, 30, 35-year-old Olympians, like top teams. So their development is like this and ours is like this. We might still be developing, but at a way lower pace. Second, even if we're developing, they can't see it. Okay, they can't because streams are we don't play good teams for the most part, and there's no quality water polo, so they can't measure us. So there's no reason for them really to. You could make an argument that it's worth it to call us every summer, like at least because we're going to be back with our families. Bring us to prep with the national team. If we're not good, send us home because that's how preparation works. You start like with a 40 people group, and then they start cutting down as they get to the tournaments. So the coaches will be like, why would I watch him and him when I have these 2 guys that were the same position playing in Europe and I see them, and I have these 2 youngins that are also coming. Like, it makes sense on one hand. On the other hand, I do think that it's a little bit of a like, screw them, they choose school, they can go have their American dreams. So like, I'm not going to say that doesn't exist, but not for everybody. Like there were a lot of people that were very, 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 very happy for us to leave. It's just like, you have to make choices, and I think that it also teaches you a very good thing about life. That you might want to have everything, but you can't sometimes. And I was very lucky because the last time Greece had a very good generation was about 5-6 years before me. They were born 94, 93. So 1994, 1993. Out of the about 6 to 7 guys that I know of got offered scholarships for here. Same vibe, like because from my team, a lot of guys got offered scholarships, but they said no. From my team, that all those guys that got offered, nobody went. Only one guy went to USC. Actually, was USC's top scorer. Won the award that Papa won, like the Heisman. He also won it. So went to the Olympics, stud. The other 5 of them were in my team when I got my offer from Cal. The night that I got my NLI and I was about to go home and sign it, we all went out for the movies. And I was like, guys, like, they were really close and they were all hugging me like their little brother. I just like, guys, I got my offer from Cal, like, I'm gonna sign it tomorrow. And they were like, listen, one of them turns around in the car. He's like, if you don't sign that letter, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you stayed? He's like, no, all of us should have gone. So all I'm trying to say is that, like, yes, even though you lose opportunities, it's clear, like, the path that you get to carve here, even though it's harder, it's just, like, the opportunities are insane.
No, that makes complete sense.
Sorry, that was a little long-winded answer, but...
No, and it works out. Like, for me, it's just, like, the understanding of, all right, maybe it's still possible, but not necessarily giving up on the dream, just putting that one aside while pursuing another one, if that makes sense. Like, something I've heard you mention is wanting to work in the U.S., for example, like, and to extend the visa in that sense and whatever. So you were still wanting to be a good water polo player clearly, and you improved a lot with that being here. but you were chasing another dream. That's all I'm getting to. Like,
I mean, I think that. Wait, the question. What's the question exactly? Like.
So I'll give you an example with soccer, right? At least in the United States specifically, because if it's in Europe, then it's the same argument you're making. But in the United States, there's also a draft for the MLS. So.
We're talking about
Yes. So it's like, all right, you're in high school, you go to college, and again, best of the best of the best. Then you get drafted and you go pro. Those are the steps. So you're still aspiring to be a professional. With that being said, if you're a player from Italy, let's say, you're a player from Roma, and you're playing in the Roma Academy. If you leave Roma to come play college in the United States, I mean, it's technically like, you're like putting the professional soccer dream aside. That's what I'm asking. You were very clear on, I'm going to put the water polo dream aside and aspire for something else.
So here's the thing. Like, I was very fortunate because I was raised by two parents that like didn't have much but still made their lives outside of their countries. And that, he had them a mentality that, we know it's not going to be easy, but we're going to push you to grab because we know what's out there for you to like grab. So from a very young age, like I never considered water polo as like and even as I was getting better, I was like, I was always like very lucky because I was around my dad a lot and his friends. I was like, I want to build my life profession. Like this sounds very interesting to me. Like I was in a lot of table conversations about like finance, where like I like to hear those things. I was curious, and I talk about this a lot with like guys from the team, and I have guys from Greece, like my mentor, was Greece's national team captain for years, and he's one of the best players. Like it's like, what would have happened if you came back, or like what would have done if we would have stayed with you? Like would have worked for you? I'm like, for sure. Like what I'm trying to say is like I knew there was a future for me if I stayed. How good that future was in water polo, I don't know. You cannot know because it's sports. There's politics, there's injuries, there's a lot of things. But I also knew that, I kind of like want to do something else. And I think that thinking back, I'm very happy I took water polo very seriously through and through all the way. And I didn't be like, okay, I got my scholarship, I'm going to go to Cal, do school, and water polo is going to be like water polo. It was water polo and school. I think that going here, I knew that I was officially telling them that, I have other priorities than water polo, and that is fine. I'm willing to accept the consequences. Does it hurt now and then? Yes. Are the Olympics the goal that I always had? I think every kid has them when they're at some point. I always had them. Yes, but I don't think you need to paint a negative picture in your life about things. Like, you saw a goal, you recalibrated because we're growing and we're maturing, and I saw that was a more important goal. I came here and I was like, wow, there's a whole side of the world that I don't know, and I get to live here, so I'm going to make the most out of it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of athletes from Europe come here for 4 years and they come back because they don't like it. Like, part of them, like, you have to take, your own destiny in your hands. Mine was kind of like forever. Like, you're going to go out, study, either England or States with a scholarship, which happened. And then from there, we're going to figure out. So I never felt like I was giving up anything because that was never registered in my life, which I think helped me very much making the decision to be like, okay, school, job, stay here, build your future here.
Got it. Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it's just something that I guess the majority of people have to not accept, but like you said, like I recorded a few days ago with Elise Beyond, and like a phrase we used is like handle hard better. Instead of like giving up, going back, it's we all live through hard things. It's this is hard, or the other option is also hard, but how are you gonna handle hard better?
What's the quote that says life is hard, you just have to choose your hard?
Exactly, it's choosing your hard. So you choose your hard, and then you have to learn how to handle it better, etc. But yeah, I guess I'm also projecting myself a bit in that part because I'm like in the part of soccer, maybe I can play one more year, maybe I can't, and that chapter's closed, and I move on, and I have other things that I'm passionate about as well. And I was just wondering how you went through that, even though it wasn't obviously you still played 4 years, and we're going to talk or 5 years, and we're going to talk about that. But I don't know, just going from that championship team to NCAA.
Okay, couple things. Number one, it hasn't been completely easy. Like it hasn't been the easiest thing because as much as you don't want to take it, like being like the sport. I don't know if you miss the sport more or the camaraderie. I personally miss the camaraderie, man. I miss the locker room talk, the jokes, like seeing because I'm a very like happy-go-lucky for the most part person. Like I miss going to the gym in the morning at 6 and just like messing up with people that were like sleeping, that were pissed off. Like I miss those things because I'm also like a people's person, so like, I need to be around them. So I miss that a little bit, and because I'm working remotely, I never fully, had a substitute for it. So on that side, how did I set my mind for it? Just kind of like, that's how I've thought about it, because I've spoken with other athletes. I just that's how I operate. Like, what's the next goal? That's how it's been. Like, I never felt like, and also like, I don't know how or why I have this, but I always thought it very highly of, you have to learn to leave things at its highest. You don't want to be the guy that's riding something too much into it. Like, and I was very fortunate. Like, I left my club. Last game of my life with my club, we won the cup. Last game of my life with the national team, we won Worlds. Last game of NCAA Water Polo, won a series. And I've been extremely lucky, but what I'm getting to is that I was already going into that game, to use this like fancy, like I had a mindset of abundance. Like, I was like, I've paid my dues. B, I love the people that are here. 3, no matter what happens, it doesn't dictate your career, or so this means that you're fulfilled. So I was very lucky because I was very fulfilled, and maybe it's because I always had a next goal. Like, I never sit down. I always have, okay, what's next? Like, you have a task list. If you finish a task list, like on a Sunday where I want to do stuff, like I'll write more things that I want to do. I'm the same way that I operate in small scale or like bigger scale. So for me, I was like, okay, get adjusted to college. Done. What's next? Pick a major. Okay, we picked a major, didn't get into Haas. Pick next major. Okay, get into that major. Okay, how do we network? Okay, what do we want to do? Investment banking. Consulting. Okay, sales. Sounds so like always having that like the carrot in front of you. So you have to go. Is it a little bit mentally draining? Probably. But it just helps you. Like, dude, we're so young. We can do so many things. Like, why don't, using cliches, but like, don't cry that it ended. Like, smile that it happened. Like, I can't control it. Like, I can do two things. Either pull it too much or to the point where I'm going to be that guy, or be like, okay, I did it. I'm happy with it. And, just move on. Yeah. There's so many things to be accomplished, especially for us. We're at this, think where we are. Like, we're 20-something, just graduated one of the best schools in the world. The world is our oyster, and we should look at it like that. So once you start looking at life like that, and you don't put limitations, I don't think you have a problem handling, because there's always something out there.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great, and
that's kind of, yeah.
And I love that as well, because again,
sorry, but the only reason I picked this is because obviously I miss my teammates.
Yeah.
Obviously I miss the team. Obviously I miss when I was here. Obviously I miss the national team and the camps. Obviously I saw the Olympics and I was super happy for the guys that I knew. But I was also like, oh, imagine if I could have made that. Like, obviously you have that, but it's healthy. It means that you did. It means that you had skin in the game that you did, and you did the hardest thing, which was to move to the next goal. Because it's easy to stay at something that you're good at and that but moving to the unfamiliar all the time, obviously you're going to have the times you're going to look back, but whatever, it happens.
Yeah, I this is my favorite, one of my favorite parts of the podcast, like taking something you say and then, somebody else just said this and all this thing. A few days ago I was recording with Isabel Ivy, and we were talking about the mentality of done next, which is technically what you're talking about, right? Have you read that? It's from Tim Grover. Do you know who that is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, did you read Relentless?
What?
Did you read his books or no?
I need to. They're on my list.
Okay.
I have like a 50 books on my Amazon card, and I just buy one every month. So it's in there.
His books for me are right over there.
I thought he's written only Winning. Has he written more?
Oh, yeah, Winning is the second one.
Oh, okay. I'm going to ask you about that one when we're done, yeah.
Yeah, Winning is the second one. The first one is Relentless. And,
yeah. Right.
And in Relentless, he talks about the done next mentality, which is what I was talking about with Isabel. My point being, and having that carrot in front of you that you're always chasing, that keeps you going, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
When do you need a break, though? Like I was talking with Isabel. Go. Oh, she was talking about how they were in a relay. They were in last place. By the time she went in, by the time they got out, podium, third place. But she was 0.01 away from second place, and she was angry about that for 5-6 months. At one point, do you have to stop chasing that and take a break? And it's like, hey, celebrate this. You did well. Then keep chasing.
I think I'm not in...
What's your take? You can disagree with me. I don't care.
No. I am... Well, your point, like... I think that what you're trying to say, like, there should be a point where we have to, like, say good job to ourselves.
No, I'm asking you if there should be.
Okay, in my opinion, you have to. Okay, and I'm going to open it a little more broadly. I always struggled... Okay, if you're like me, and I think a lot of others would identify with this, and especially guys, we don't talk about this a lot, self-confidence for me, it's been one of the biggest journeys in my life, athletically and personally. And for somebody like me, I think that I couldn't give myself the pat on the back to be like, take a break. Like, I think that breaks need to be taken strategically, so you don't have to need them. So you don't have to take them by necessity. You know what I'm trying to say? So you much rather take a weekend off, speaking to myself, than having to get sick from overexhaustion from 2 months of going. Okay, and I think that I learned to do that very well as an athlete at some point. Like, I was very good at the point where, like, I knew when I had to take days off. And I knew that I was okay with myself taking a day off, even if my coach would be mad at me, because I knew. And I would like call him, again, the coach that I was with 6 years, he'd be like, I'm not feeling very well, I'm not really sick, but I'm not going to come. And it was like once every 2 or 3 months. He'd be like, whatever, you're just being soft. I'd be like, no, I need this, because I knew, I felt it coming. So I think that I learned to do that. But because we're overachievers, and if you like struggle with your confidence and you end up measuring yourself only with your achievements, it's almost kind of like a broken dopamine circuit where like you only get like reassurance about yourself only when you achieve your goals, and then every time you achieve a goal is 0 because you have more goals. So I think you have to find a balance, which I think it's a work in progress for all of us at this level, between okay, let's not stop, but let's pace ourselves. You have to learn. Everything is cyclical. You can't just be red all the time. You just can't. Everybody like has days off. Some people need more, some people need less. Some people can operate with like 6 hours of sleep. I wish I was that, and I've tried. I can't. Like, I get myself sick. I physically try to sleep 6 hours. I can't. So like, personal examples. So I think that, one is that like you need to learn to pace yourself. What you were referring about, Isabel, and the race, it's also like, being too hard on yourself, but also pushing yourself to get better. So I think those two are interconnected. I think that as athletes, we need to understand that, quite frankly, like, we're pretty far ahead for our age. So let's not, tackle ourselves. Let's think about how we can, figure out our own limits, push them a little bit, and then pull back, push them and go back. It's the same thing with the gym. Like, you're not going to be operating at like 1 rep max all the time. You need to go through those phases of like, 3 sets of 8, 7 at 80%, so you can build that 1 rep max. So again, a little bit of a long answer, but it's difficult because we athletes tend to measure our selves by our achievements and by our task lists, but we're way more than that. We need to like have a healthy conversation with ourselves now and then say like, listen, like, you need this. You deserve this, and you should give yourself. But if you cannot like tell yourself you deserve this, at least understand that you need this tactically. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, you need to take a break tactically, and then you have to take it a step back and be like, listen, dude, like, you've done so much. Let's take a break so we can go at it on Monday again.
Exactly, and
I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, and now to connect it with the time you're at Cal, you go from those highs, which, to your point, you never dragged it, right? Last game with your team, you won the cup. Then with the national team, you won the championship. You show up to Cal, 2016 inspired you. You're ready to go. No championships. I'm sensing a bit of stubbornness only because I was the same way my first 2 years. If they're not going to be that way, team. I'm not going to adapt. If they're going to be like this, I'm not going to adjust. I'm going to stay by myself. I'm going to stay in. If they want to go out, I'm not going to go out. And what happened there? How did you adjust? How was your journey then? Because right now it's always nice to say it in retrospect, right? And to reflect on it. But how were those first 2 years for you, and what headspace were you in?
Hard, man. They were hard. Did I learn about it? Absolutely, like an immense amount about myself. But they were hard because I come in, even though, and this is kind of like something that tends to happen a lot of times with athletes. Like I had like a decently successful path up until then, and I wasn't like, you would think that a guy coming in with my experience and my resume, you would have a little bit more self-confidence. I didn't have any. I was going through a tough last year in Greece where I didn't get to play very much because I was leaving, and they didn't use me very much in the team because they were investing in younger guys. So they're like, you're going to leave anyways. So that plummeted kind of my confidence and I was already going through like a period of where I was finding myself. So again, going back, that year before was hard. Don't get the playtime I want, very insecure. My abilities didn't go up as I wanted them to be. Like, I was in a certain trajectory and like it tempered a little bit. So coming into the first semester, like, I think like a freshman, a freshman can only do like anything that a freshman brings to the table, it's a positive. Like, I don't think you can expect freshmen to hold a lot of ends of a bargain. They just need to pass school, don't do anything stupid that's going to get them in trouble, and just like perform at least decently in water polo. And I had a good season. School was tough. I screwed up my enrollment over the summer because I didn't know how call center worked, and I ended up taking 4 breaths, and they kicked my ass. So I survived, and it was good because I had the team and the traveling. The team didn't do well because we weren't close. And we had one of the best teams, and they had the best team at the year, but like one of the best teams I've seen in college in my last 5 years. And we lost in semis, which for water polo, especially our team, wasn't like a success. Come back home, whatever. You start spring training. That was rough. I never had to. Now I wake up like at 5:30 and 6 regularly. I never had to wake up at like 5:30 before in my life. I didn't know how to adjust my sleep schedule. I didn't know how to do all that stuff. So it was very tough. I took a couple hard classes, which went well, but it was hard, man. I took my first English writing class. That was an experience. And then to cap it off, I couldn't go home in the summer because I needed to take summer classes, which was very hard, as I'm very, very much a homebody and I'm very close with my family. And I ended up from how stressed and tired, and probably looking back, I was a little depressed. Like, I know that word gets thrown around, but I was probably a little depressed. I wasn't doing very well. And again, held it out to myself. Nobody knew what was going on. About 25th of July, I come back from like a 1 week break and do a test set, and 5-6 hours later, like my heart rate starts going from like 60 beats per minute to like 130, like up and down, up and down, up and down. So I had an AFib, which is basically your top 8, I think it's called like that, people don't come from me. Top 2 atria and top bottom atria beating at a different pace. My heart going up and down, trying to like bring them at the same pace. Impossible. Go to the ER. Long story short, end up getting defibrillated to like reset my heart rate. Mind you, I've been 11 months in the States, have had the shittiest spring of the year, stayed all summer alone in Berkeley, and just like that happened. And that was a kind of like, okay, that was the first moment really in my life where I was kind of like, you know, even my parents who like have always been like kind of like, okay, let's try and do this. They called me, they were like, do you want to come home? Like, it's okay. Like, we know you like to push it, but it's okay. And I remember that conversation. I started crying, but I was like, no freaking way. There's no way I'm coming back. Thanks to sports for this, because like there's nothing can teach you to go after a goal like sports, I think. Second year, kind of same thing. Worst team, bad season, just difficult times, man. I wasn't close with the team again, as I said. I take full responsibility for that. I didn't know. Do I think that they could have done a little bit better job of understanding me, that I was kind of like, you know, closed off and I wasn't having a good time? Yeah, but you know, everybody's going through their own stuff. So, yeah, second year was kind of bad. Spring was bad as well. In the spring, I also had another medical emergency. I had to go to the ER again. Had to stay in the hospital for one night. Which, you know, again, you're not even full 2 years at Cal, and I've had a very good experience in any like segment. Like, I wasn't going out very much. Like, I met so many people junior and senior year when I actually like was happy with myself and connected with my team and started going out. I was like, imagine how many people would have met. Like, you know, so many people from like all those freshman orientations, the freshman parties. I never went to that stuff. Not because they didn't invite me. Like, I just disconnected myself, and I just like, and that's why I talk a lot about mental health, because like I should have spoken to people. 2, I should have told myself that it's okay, and 3, like, I don't know. I hope there was a culture around me that, you know, would have been like, hey, what's up? So, again, those first 2 years, really tough. And, like, I wasn't, again, it also stemmed from, like self-love and self-confidence. Like, I wasn't confident in who I was. I wasn't confident with who I was in water polo because of how I came in, and the team wasn't doing well, and I took a lot of it up on myself. During the spring off-season tournaments, like, I got into fights, which I never did. So, you know, it's kind of like that phase where you see, like, in movies, like, the guy is, like, not himself. Like, I wasn't myself. And something kind of changed in my junior year. I kind of like sat down with myself and I was like, okay, let's clean slate. We're kind of like halfway through, and we find a little bit of a direction. Forced myself to make a couple more friends, and you know, one led into the other, and I started doing better at school, better water polo, better this, better and that, and I just built a life here that I love.
That it's not that I'm smiling at all because it's funny. I'm smiling because that was yeah. Just putting it down.
There's probably a lot of people that relate to that.
I fully relate to that. That's why I'm smiling. Like, literally, I just had those thoughts, especially after, like, yesterday and this past week that we were just done with season. Like, I'm looking around and it's like, damn, where were these friends for me my first 2 years? And I only started making them until my junior and senior year. Why? Confidence plays a role and things like that, but I went through, I mean, it's like diagnosed this way, but similar to what you're saying, an identity crisis, right? And a lot of anxiety and things like that. That's literally what I went through. I went to therapy for that, and it helped me, but I mean, my therapist really, really helped me out. With that being said, it was like he was guiding me more than doing it for me, obviously, because what you're saying is the same thing I did. I ended up sitting myself down and it's like, who do you want to be and how are you going to get there? Pretty much. Like, that's the only way to do it. And my freshman year, I mean, soccer-wise, I struggled a lot those first years. Just for context, freshman year, I redshirt, pandemic hits in the spring. I come back for COVID season, tear my meniscus 3 games in, and that kicks me out sophomore and junior season because it was spring into fall. And then I played here, and like, it's weird. It's not even an excuse, but it's weird because the one season that I was fully available, we get a new head coach. So it was like, it was so many different things. But like you said, you have to control what you can, and those were the lessons I started to implement into my life. And I'm not sure if that's how you sat yourself down or what you did to even get there in the first place.
I think that I've always been, and this is something I struggle with and I work with all the time, huge people pleaser. And why I started with this is because I was measuring my worth about what everyone else thought of me or what I thought they thought of me, which is like a completely like overthinking, just like you take a thing and you pull it, you extrapolate it too much.
Yeah, there's actually this quote that's like, I'm not what I think I am and I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like that's what you're saying.
And well, speaking of one of the quotes that I say to a lot of my people that come to me and they ask my pastor, I'm like, listen, the first thing I started telling myself is like, I am who I'm not, I'll never be. Like, and you have to know who you are, and it's not easy, but something Cal forces you to do is you figure out who you are. So going back to that, I just kind of like sat myself down, I'm like, okay, listen, like, you can't keep doing this to yourself. Again, talking to the third person, talking to myself. You just cannot keep like measuring yourself by everything. Like, do what you best, and you know, I think at the end of the day, to put it simply, I figure that, you know, I have to do what makes me sleep well at night, and to like stop wondering, like, accept that some people are just not gonna like you, man. You're not gonna click. They're not gonna hate you, but you know, no, not gonna click. And I did the thing for many, many years, and it's part of like why I came in so insecure at college, because I tried to like go and tend to everybody's like this, and people sense that, and you know, you have to be who you are, and obviously be kind, obviously do good. But I think for something like me, like that was my default setting. I just need to be like more secure with who I was. Started doing that. I think that, you know, you had a therapist, and I wish I had gone to one. I think that I discovered a person on the internet that like really shaped a lot of my mindset in a lot of things, mainly leadership, but also personal, which was, do you know who Jocko Willink is?
Jocko Willink, of course, yeah.
So I think that if anybody asks me about leadership and about like captainship, I'm like, open up his YouTube channel and start.
His daughter went here.
I know.
Yeah.
I found that out later because like I used to post a lot of his stuff, and like a couple of my buddies hit me. I'm like, you know that he's there? I'm like, no, never. And I was like, I don't know. When I was in San Diego down there, I was like this close to go to his gym. I'm like, let's not. But very, very influential figure for 2 reasons. One, because I learned a lot about leadership, and by learning about leadership, I learned a lot about myself. Why do I say this? Because to number one thing for leadership is to like understand people. How do you understand people? You need to build compassion. How do you build compassion? You need to go talk to them. When you go talk to them, you can't have an ego. You can't be insecure because they might snap at you. They might tell you something mean. They might be angry. That's fine. You need to be secure with yourself so you can let them talk to you. So it was through that process where I was kind of like, okay, let's see how I can become a better leader. And you know, when you see like this Navy SEAL tough guy telling that you have to understand where everybody comes from, and I thought it was all like you have to lay down the law, which is not the case. And you know, that kind of like transformed me a lot because I found the purpose in the thing and in leadership and in the team, and I fell in love with the team, fell in love with that apart from water polo. And you know, if you ask the guys from my class, when I got named captain, people were very worried because they thought I was going to go full on my way or the highway, whatever. And it was just because I knew that was the perception I had for 2 years, because again, I tried to impose my culture on everyone, every single point. But I just changed that because that was so big, because you know, it's good to build relationships, and like it helped me understand people, and I got super close with everybody. So win-win. But going back to that, yes, it was definitely something I did that, and it was kind of like the Jordan Peterson type thing of like start making your bed, and then you can take on the world. So I started cleaning off my internal and external stuff, and then from there, at the same time, build my leadership skills and start like rebuilding myself.
Yeah, and I mean, to Jocko's point, the book that I have read, or the book that he has that I have read, is The Dichotomy of Leadership. And it's literally in the title, right? The fact that it is a dichotomy goes to show how you have to play around with that and how you have to find a balance and how it's contradicting at times. But that's the point, and so is life. I think I always say that sports are a metaphor for life, but leadership is... it's not a metaphor for life. It's how it works because you have to
everywhere in life.
Yeah, you have to apply it in everything that you do. And sometimes you're the leader. And if you tend to be a natural leader per se, obviously you have to work on it. But if you, naturally that's who you are, you tend to do that in mostly everything you do. At times, I think you have to sit down, accept that you're not going to be the point leader. You're going to bring things to the table, but you have to learn as well from other people so that then you can implement it yourself. Point being, you have to do that in all your life. It's not a metaphor for life because it is life. It's how it works.
You have to lead everything. You have to lead yourself. You have to lead your relationships. And as you said, like, why learning leadership is so humbling is because you need to understand that in order to lead, you need to allow people to lead you. They need to, because think about this. Understanding where somebody's coming from is letting them lead you into where they want to go. Okay? And for you to listen, you need to, like, put yourself under them and let them talk to you. And you can only do that if you're good with yourself. Like, again, you need to learn how to handle things with grace to connect with people. Some people are going to be angry, and in order for them to, like, let their guard down and for you to lead them, you need to, like, be able to take that. And you need to be secure with yourself, man or woman. You need to be sure of who you are. So, they might tell you something, you might be like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Instead of snapping back. So I think, yeah, like, and as you said, it's dichotomy. You have to play with, there's never a right answer. It's always like a percentage. Sometimes 40-60, sometimes 70-30, sometimes 51-49. You have to figure out on the spot. So yeah, that was definitely, I would say that was like the most important thing that just I flipped the switch. I was kind of like, yeah, like, this is what I like to do. Apparently there's other ways to do it. Apparently you can lead people without just yelling at them, which it's the Eastern European way. That's how I was taught at the teams back home. So, it was very interesting to discover that and kind of like see it come to fruition. And the way it ended, like, the stuff that I heard from my teammates and my coaches, like, at the last year banquet at the end of the year last year was just very rewarding because it was like, yes, like, you put the work and, like, you turn yourself into the leader you dream to be.
Yeah, no, and that's an amazing journey, and it's obviously, like, why we're having these conversations today as well.
Yeah.
What year was it that you got named captain your junior year?
It was right the spring of 2020. It was junior year.
Junior year, okay.
Yeah. So I was captain for 2 years because I did 4.5. So I did my second half of the junior year, all of the senior year, and then the first semester of my fifth year because I did 4.5.
Yeah. So I
got captain like a month before the pandemic.
Yeah. Which is an entire mess in and of itself as well. The reason I was asking that, you mentioned purpose right before that. Do you think you found your purpose at Cal thanks to that leadership role?
Man, that's a good question. Did I find my purpose? I was always a kid that would, like, speaking of Jocko Willink, he speaks a lot of leadership vacuums. But there's a time, leadership vacuums, when you're in a group of people, shit goes down or shit goes sideways, and, like, everybody's quiet and everybody's waiting for somebody to jump up and take a decision, and that's a leadership vacuum. Somebody's waiting for a leader to step up. I was always that kid. We had an issue, we had a disagreement in class, I would always try to sit down people and try and communicate. Sometimes it was perceived well, sometimes it was perceived badly. Especially as I started growing up and I started being a little more stern, it was a little harder for me to communicate with people. So I always had a tendency for it. Is that my purpose? I don't know, but it's something that fulfills me very much. Like, I think that as I'm growing up, I like it. So maybe it is, like, just never thought about that. I like to lead teams. Especially the way it happened the last 2 years, like, I want to do that very soon again because I love that. I love the bringing people together, the motivating people towards a common goal, going through the ups and the downs. So I didn't find exactly purpose, but I found direction through leadership. Yeah, it's rather one of my purposes. I don't know what my purpose is like. I think everybody should, like, trying to do good and stuff, but, like, other than that, I don't know if that's my sole purpose. But I do have a tendency. I love it. I studied, and I will always study because I love it so much, and I think you can never be, the best at it. So yeah, it was something that just kind of kept me going. Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. And the reason I was asking is because it also happened to be that my junior year is when I started to feel comfortable here, precisely because I found a purpose, which was that part of that identity crisis for me.
oh, you're not playing, oh, you're not getting along with the people on the team. What am I going to do? Like, how am I going to find something that keeps me going? To the definition of depression, right? Which I don't use lightly at all, and I'm not going to self-diagnose my past self at all. But depression is when you can't find a purpose, right? It's a lot of people think that it's when you're sad. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily that you're sad. It's just you don't really find a purpose.
You're kind of directionless, you would say.
Yeah. And that's not like I'm not an expert or anything. It's just that's just the truth. Like it is what it is. And when you find that purpose, your life just becomes that much more happier and better. I'm not going to say my life is perfect, but that helped me there. And what I found junior year was this. Like, it's thanks to this, honestly. And it sounds so weird because it's like you're just sitting down and talking to people. But the way it gave me confidence to do this with anyone outside is what I sense that happened with you in leadership. You gained leadership with your teammates, and that impacted all your other relationships in your life.
And it was also like now that I think two things. First of all, and I might say this, you inspire me very much by this, and I don't say lightly. This is very inspiring, and like the way you do it, I don't think that if other guests haven't told you enough, is because probably it doesn't come in conversations. But like, dude, this is seeing somebody like start something and bringing it to life and see it evolve is beautiful, and it's very inspiring to me. I always wanted to make contact, and I think you're doing phenomenally.
Thank you.
But what I was going to say is that, as you were saying, I thought about this. So I'm a very protective person. And in my darkest times, on my junior year, when it was kind of the inflection point, I found my team. Because our team was doing the worst it's ever done in the last 12 years. However, it's when it started feeling the closest. It was every like night out together, it was the whole team. It was karaoke nights. It was this. It was that. It was good. She was there for me. And because of that, and because I was also one of the oldest people, I got super protective over it. Number one, I got super protective over it because I felt like I was protecting my people by trying to be a good leader. Number two, I felt like I owed them because even if they didn't know, they were there for me in a way that nobody else was. And number three, I have a huge sense of commitment and a huge sense of like I owe stuff. I truly believe when they say the team like you should leave the cup or the jersey on a better place, that is something I was taught in my club team from day one. So it was a combination of it. It was kind of like, okay, I had the group, I started developing the skills, I had the platform, like my coach was super good at like giving me the dance floor to like do what I wanted to do in terms of like trying stuff. So it was a combination of timing, purpose, the people, and who I am. Because it came from a lot of things. It came from like protection from the team, from like sense of in a healthy way of like that you owe to the program. So all those things just like drove me through it, like, and what you're saying, like I became a completely different like person. Completely different Nikos in terms of like how I speak, how I carry myself, how I stand, like everything. And it's a work in progress, but like looking back, like I was so like freshman, sophomore year, because I had such an issue with self-confidence, I was just like always like, whatever, like, I didn't want to go out. I wasn't feeling happy with myself, and now it's just different. And big part of it is that I discovered myself through leadership. So yeah, that's, you want to call it purpose, you want to call it like a big chunk of my life, a big part of who I am, yeah. Like that's something definitely, something's part of me.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't limit it to being your purpose, but I think, like you said, I think it drives it, per se.
For sure.
Like, for example, something that literally, just to connect all those points, this podcast specifically, right? Like, there's this thing, I explained it to Marcos Rico when he was here. Do you know Simon Sinek, speaking of authors? Start with Why?
Yes. No, I had to connect the face to the name, yes.
Have you seen that Start With Why TED Talk, or no?
Is it the one that he talks about the Navy SEALs?
It's not specifically in that one, but anyways, it's set together. But the thing is, like, it's one of the most famous TED Talks ever. And it's Start With Why, which he later made a book. And it's the golden circle, right? So there's the what and the how. But if you don't have the why, then you're not going to get to anything. And I explained it to Marcos. I was saying, all right, what? Podcast. How? You get some mics, you get lights, you get your cameras, the monitors, whatever you want.
But the why.
But the why. The why. And that's why, like, I started out with, like, it's called Denting, obviously. Yeah. But it's to leave your dent in the universe and inspire others to do the same. And to me, like, the way I do it is to what you were saying, en español, tirándome las flores, te las tiro de regreso, no? Like, if you're going to compliment me, I'll compliment you. If it's not already obvious, like, the only reason people ask me, like, how do I find guests, or how do I, like, what do they have to do? Do they have to win NCAA championships? Do they have to be Olympians? And it's like, no, they just have to inspire me in one way or another. That's pretty much it. And I think that's the why right there, at least for me. It's like gaining inspiration from someone to pass it on to somebody else. to pay it forward to somebody else. If you're doing that to me, I'm going to try and find 3 people who can individually pass it on to 3 people, and then it just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. With that being said, I'm not going to say that, oh, Nikos as a captain, that's why he had found purpose and happiness. But no, it allowed you to explore it into who you were, I think. And I'm only saying that as a projection of my own experience, literally. Not as a captain, but with this thing. And it's just finding, again, that purpose and meaning through interaction, conversation, and the bond, which I know you're big on having that close bond in every team that you've been on, like having a good bond, which is something that, at least for me, is interesting, right? Because
I get goosebumps when you said about the bonds.
Yeah, I mean, without knowing your team well, I think it's, from an outside point of view, seeing guys go out in season and still be able to win things, I don't know how that works, in all honesty.
We maybe shouldn't be saying this, that we're going out in season, but yes.
Do you want me to cut it or no? I can cut it if you want.
It's fine.
Okay. No, but I wasn't going to say like,
I think that you can look at, sorry to interrupt you, I think that you can look at this both ways, and because I come from Europe and the drinking culture is different, like you can look at people going out during season 2 ways. First of all, what do they do? Second of all, how do they react? Like, you can go out and be respectful and, like, you know, everybody take care of each other, or you can go out and, like, derail your season and your team. So, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm by no means, like, what I was getting to.
Yeah. When I know you weren't getting to that. Like, I know you hold our team in high regard. Like, that's what you were saying.
Whoever, if anybody's going to take this the wrong way, directly to the camera, men's water polo, and, I mean, both water polo teams have all my respect.
We have a good crew, I would say. Sorry, do you want to finish the sentence before I...
Oh, so what I wanted to say is every successful team you've been on, you've said, has close bonds.
Yeah.
Very close. And that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe it was going through tough times, but don't you think, to a certain extent, like that going out, and I'm not saying getting fucked up, I'm not saying getting shit-faced, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying the fact that you are socializing together makes you a better team. And I'm asking this because, same with us, right? We're going through a very low moment. New head coach, who's a great head coach, but we struggled this season. But our bond, it has changed so much over the years.
Okay, that's a great point, because I was kind of like alluding to it before. Like, I didn't go out, I didn't get to know my team the first 2 years, and it was my fault. The minute it made that mental switch in my head, and I started being like, okay, you have to go out, so the kids need to know you. They can't just know you in the field. There is the we need to do things together, but there is there's groups in the teams. They're not cliques, they're just groups. It's a group of 20 plus people. There is no way you can get 20 people to agree on something to do for the whole night. You can agree for them to be at a certain sport for a little bit, which is what matters, but, you know, just to preface that. Now, I thought that it was kind of be like, we don't need to go out, just like, you practice together and whatever. Wrong, Nikos. Very wrong. And Nikos realized that at some point. I was like, okay, I need to force myself to go out. Because as much of an extrovert as I am when I'm out and I'm networking, I'm very introverted many times. Like, I'm just like, don't talk to me. Let me go home, barbecue steak, and watch a movie, and let me go to sleep at 9 p.m. alone. So and that was what I was before. And I had to be like, you have to go out, man. Like, you have to. You can't expect from people. Why? Because when you go through those experiences, you have to be strong going into the experiences to make it stronger. It's not that you're just going to come close together. Going through a city season, it wouldn't have been the same if we just like started fighting. But we went through a city season and we just started coming together. It was like every Sunday we just like go out together just to restart so we can get through another week, because it sucks. Like, especially like halfway through the season when you're knee deep. Like, dude, like our program doesn't lose more than 4 or 5 games. 5 at 4. We were almost at a 500 record. Like, we finished the season 13-11. That's unheard of. Like, alumni were kind of like, what are you doing? So, going through that season, it was just kind of like, okay, let's come together. Let's get through the next Saturday. Oh, we lost the game. All right. Go home, cry for a little bit. See you all guys at X house, and let's go out. Let's go sing together. Let's go, remember that we're here in this together and we're doing our best. So that's kind of something that I had to understand is very important, because you can't expect, and it kind of goes along the same thing that you need to like go and meet somebody in the middle. Like, you need to understand their ways of going out and their culture if you wanna like positively influence them. Something, again, Jocko Willink talks about, it's called conform to influence. It's the first thing that I had to learn. Conform to influence basically means that if you want to steer somebody in the right direction, you can't You can't go and tell them this is how we do it. If you want to redirect a body or like a stream, you're not going to put a dam in it to take. You're going to like slowly just like build it. So it's the same thing. You have to be part of the group so you can start suggesting stuff. You can suggest the same thing to a team, and if they perceive you as part of the group, they're going to listen to you. As hard as that might be, if they don't, good luck, bud. It's like I wasn't like an easygoing cop. I was like I had tough conversations with people. That's why at the end of the day I think that I was good, because they know I was 100 with them. But the reason I was able to sit everybody at the locker and be like, listen guys, like this is unacceptable, is because they knew like I'm out with you, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you know we have to do this. So number one, you need to go with a group so they know you're part of them, and then you have to prove them that you have the best interest in the group, because they knew that I had no personal interest in like shitting on somebody or the group, other than us winning a championship. But I couldn't convey that unless I was there with them. And as you said, through tough times we came together. And it also comes to a beautiful point where they know Fernando's threshold is like 10:30 p.m. Nikos is like 9:30. X is like 1:30. It's his vibe, but we know he's going to be with somebody. He's going to get home. If he doesn't, we're going to deal with this internally very well, very quickly. And we're going to include the coach if we want to. And then from there, we're going to go. Because like that's different culture of trust, man. And you're going to go through shitty stuff. Like, we're in college, we're young. Shit's going to come up. The way you deal with those stuff, the way you go through hard times in practice or outside, like, everything brings you together.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's something the team is currently going through. Like you said, obviously there's going to be cliques. Obviously there's going to be, like, different groups. And that's part of it. And our team, especially, like, 30 of us. That's a lot of people to get together.
How many are internationals?
Fantastic question.
Ding, ding, ding.
And you're gonna laugh at this. Currently, 1.
No way. Oh, we have like 7 last year.
I know you guys have way more than us. So for us, it was California only up until our new head coach is coming in, and that's going to change
I didn't know that.
So it was California only. Oh. Like, international would be considered like me and Juan, because Juan was born in Madrid. I'm from San Diego, but like cross the border every single day. So it was like, oh, so they are like not Californian 1,000%, which I mean we kind of are. Juan moved to California when he was in 6th grade, and I was born and raised in California. I just like slept for a few years in Mexico, but crossed the border every single morning, right? Like, we are very California heavily influenced. With that being said, now there's a kid from Tokyo, and I don't know if I'm missing somebody else. We have a new one. He transferred this year. He's from Nigeria. But he's been living in the States for a while as well. It's not directly, besides the kid from Tokyo, who he has all my respect. Like, he learned English. He's a sophomore right now. 3 semesters. His English is great. Has like balled out in school. He's a very good player. So very proud of him. But with that being said, we're going through that part of the bond and trying to figure it out. And with 28 of us, trying to get on the same page is hard. Rarely are we able to like fully have this be on the same page when we hang out, whether it's like going out or just socializing here. With that being said, I think since our bond is only growing, that's only going to be better for the program in terms of results.
Also, like, let's keep it real, because like we've been in teams and people that listen to certain teams, there aren't always people, like, not all people are going to want the best of the team. Some people are selfish. Some people they're not going to play in their selfish. Like, you don't really, and this is just me keeping 100% real. Like, listen, you need the key contributors, however many they are, in a team, 15, 10, 15, I don't know, in a football team they're more, in a soccer team they're less, but they're more than water polo. You need them to be on the same page. From there, you need to start drawing people into the mission. You need to start with a group. And then from there, everybody understands, like, dude, like, all I can do is go, like, and I told them, like, everybody gets the same ring. Everybody gets a ring. So, number 1, everybody gets a ring. Number 2, and this is something that needs to be said, and this is something that I always say to any person that's a captain, I'm like, you have to explain your team. There are roles. There is a reason there's first, second place, third place, and there's a reason there's players that play more and play less. You can either accept that and work towards a common goal, or you can be like, no, I want to play even though it's going to hinder the results of the team. So that's also something that, like, coach and player leadership need to convey. Because let's keep it real, like, people want to play sometimes, they don't care if they're going to win, and that's not how sports work. They're not. So that was something that, I was kind of like very adamant with them. Like, I'm not going to sit here and hold your hand if you're telling me that you want to play, but I can clearly see why you're not. Like, I'll tell you why, and I can help you all that you want. I'm all for help. But you also have to be very willing to, like, put in the work and, like, maybe not get the gratification of, like, playing as much as you want to. because there is people that, their parents, their friends, that tell them they should be playing better, but the reality is that they shouldn't. This is not controversial. It's like you just ask around the team and they tell you, like, the depth chart, more or less, it's not, it's made because of reasons, sports reasons. So I think that those are all things that you have to juggle. And as a good captain, you can't blow people off. You gotta half build that rapport and be like, you know that Nikos wants the best of the team, but you also know that Nikos is gonna give you an honest opinion, and also know that he's gonna help you if you want. So those two things, I think you have to establish those with your team as a captain for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And
sorry, what you're saying is because in your team, for example, you maybe having a bad season, make everybody thinks that they can solve the problem playing wise, but that's not the case. You need to come together and you'll figure it out. The coach is there for a reason. You just need to bring the people together.
I think especially since I'm in the senior class, those graduating, they can already tell that within the first few years, there's going to be a huge change. We fully trust our head coach.
Good.
We know it's the best thing for the program. Obviously, it's frustrating in the first season, maybe second. After that, we know it's going to be figured out. But I think that if you don't have that bond from the beginning, there's not much to say. And that's what I was getting to from the very beginning. I think it's something admirable from your team, because for other teams, it's they could hurt the performance, this and that. It's not about the athleticism at that point. It's the bond that you're talking about and that you've prioritized so much. And with that being said, you're talking about that change. Obviously, in terms of results, we can see it, but how was it internally? What are the people not seeing that changed so much to become a winning program to the point where you're at today again?
What changed to make it a winning program again?
You're talking about having some of the best teams on paper, but results-wise, to your guys' standards, it's not the same as always. And by the end of your career, you're winning the NCAA Championship again, so...
You need, I think, that could be a whole podcast on its own, but... you need a lot of things, man. First of all, you need to be lucky. You need the recruitment to align. And so, number one, right off the bat, my junior year, we got a freshman class that had Papa in it and had, a bunch of, super solid, what you call a culture addition. That's culture guys. Just from freshman year, they were part of the boys. They made the boys the boys. So it's never a one-person effort. It's just everything clicks just well. So timing and luck is very, very important, and recruiting-wise. So we had a great class of freshmen, and it was have a couple of people. So they come in freshmen. The sophomores at the time are good, and they're developing to really good, 2 or 3 of them. And then you have me and 2 more guys in the class above, and we had 2 seniors, so they left. So we were bottom heavy. So that's good because you have young studs that want to train, they want to go out and do team stuff. They don't have a lot of school really because it's freshman year, they figured it out fairly quickly. And so we could focus on that. So number one is that luck. Number 2, you just have to try stuff. You're going to have to see what works for the team. As a captain, I try to do a lot of different things, and man, some sticks, something doesn't. I might love this team activity that I have in my mind, but if 99% of the team doesn't rock with it, why would I push it? Just that's terrible leadership. You have to read, you have to go and see what the troops are feeling, and you have to conform to influence. If the influence is going to go away and you think you have to go away, unless it's a make it or break it thing, which there's very few in sports, just to let them be. So a good team is a living organism. My coach, Coach Kirk, always said this, this team is very special and the group is a part of this team. And that was something that I never wanted to touch as a captain. A group is an organism. And my only job was to just okay, I arguably have a little more experience from playing overseas. So just give that organism, that team, a couple nudges towards the right direction, and trying to temper the enthusiasm from lack of experience was the most challenging thing.
Yeah.
Because you want to win, you're hungry, but you have all these teams that have been to NCAAs 3 years in a row, and we roll COVID year into NCAAs in the semifinal, even though we have basically steamrolled everybody, and we lose to a USC that was missing 2 players. Why? Experience probably, and that's why we walk into the semifinal 9 months later, and we just we go overtime with UCLA, everybody just no problem, dealt with business. Final, we're down 2 goals, I think. Brought it around, 4th quarter, we're up, cleaned up, and left. Obviously, close games, but we were able to clean it up because, I don't know, we just did the work before. And I wish I could tell you a list of things, but I think that the chemistry is there. I think it's part of it's luck, and also again, dude, COVID, again, and I said this on my interview right after NCAAs. I said, I put these kids through everything. Well, I put these kids, I asked them to do so many things, and the fact that we went through this, it spoke about how hungry we were and how much we love being with each other. Do you know where San Francisco Aquatic Park is? You know what that is?
No.
So in the north part of San Francisco, right next to the docks, there's like a bay, like a little enclosed. We would go there in the summer, and it was like 55-degree water. We'd go there and like throw in the water polo kids and play or swim. And I organized practice at 7 a.m. there in San Francisco. Like nobody had to come, but there was an understanding that was kind of like, okay, we talk all that smack about how we want to win a ring. This is what we need to do. We did book club. We read Legacy, the book about the All Blacks. I've read that book like 3 times.
We literally just read it. Our new head coach comes in and it's like, you're all going to read this.
That's the book that got me into leadership, I would say. Right before I discovered like Jack and stuff, that was the first book I read. But so back to the point is, it's luck is that, and it's also like the things like that and the stress and like going through the shitty seasons also big. Not that you need shitty seasons to be a good team, but like that definitely reinforces a strong team spirit. That happened with the national team too. Like the fact we won Worlds because we got our asses kicked in both Euros and Worlds the year before, and we watched everybody else take the podium. Like those things build your team, and they're like, okay, this is what we could have won and we didn't, so let's go get it next year.
Yeah, during that COVID year, because obviously it was 2021 when you guys won the national championship, which was. It was weird because there was 2 seasons, like you said. It was a COVID season in the spring and then the actual season in the fall, which is when you guys win. Were you here during all of COVID, or did you go back home?
Yeah, I flew in January 2020, and I went back home November 2020 for a month.
Okay.
I stayed because I wasn't sure what the heck was going to happen with the visas. So, because back then there was a clause that if you left the country for 5 months, they could, I think, revoke your F1, which it wasn't the case, obviously, because everybody left. But I was kind of like, let's stay in, and I got to explore California for the first time. Like I drove up and down the coast like 3-4 times. Super, super nice. So yeah, that was, and I'm not trying to like play Mr. Good Captain here, but I did stay partially for the team too. Like I thought about it. It was nice to be close to the people. It was easy for me to convey the message when I saw most of them. Like 85% of the team was in Berkeley when they didn't have to. So yeah, part of it was I stayed because I was just like very fired up to be with the guys. And again, talk about that. If I hadn't come out of my freaking shell 9 months ago, I wouldn't have a family, the group to like support me through those times. So, yeah.
The hard part the first 2 years, mental health wise, was being in that shell and not coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have this responsibility on your shoulders, which is not easy at all. And part of what we talked about last time, right? Like, it's 1, not easy at all, but 2, not really talked about as much how heavy it could get on certain shoulders. And again, that's why I point out I don't have that experience. With those teams, I don't. Could I understand you in other things? Yes. But I don't know what it's like for an alumni to be, hey, what's going on with the season? Hey, why aren't we winning X amount of games? Hey, what happened in the semis? So you have that pressure. You're staying a 5th year because, well, you had already thought about it, but you want to do something about it. There's the pressure of, all right, my career is set, but I came for the ring and I saw it in 16 and I don't want to leave without one. How do you handle that, being the captain, the leader, one of the oldest guys on the team as well? Like, when guys are looking at you, how do you respond to that?
I think dichotomies, again. There is a very big difference. Like, you have to play 2 roles. You have to be the beacon. Can you hear the...
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a bit weird.
Could it be my headphones because I was playing with the thing?
We're back after a technical break. Wait, it even sounds better now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You were saying dichotomy.
Yeah, like I think it's very. It's for, at least for who I am and how I carry myself and how I was as a captain. Like it was very. It was a dichotomy between managing like semi-human, but also you want to be that beacon of light when everybody like is like at dark time, and you also want to be that maturity when everybody's super excited. But you also want to be that excitement when everybody's sad. So you need to like kind of like. Be the other side of the pendulum, like kind of whatever you want to call it, like make the scale come even. If it's like so, for me that was like I needed to be able to at one leave my feelings at home and practice, but also there were times where I had like, and I've told this to like the guys that are now in the leadership of the team. I was like sometimes like I just had to level with them. Like I walked into the locker room, like almost started crying, like mid-season, like guys, I can't convince the whole team to do this. If you don't want to do this, let me know, because I care about this, and I know you do, but we need to figure this out. So there were times where I needed to be like very human with them, and there were times where I needed to be like, listen, this is business as usual. We're going to get through this. We're going to do this and that. So I think that you develop that reading the room type of thing, reading the team. It's like reading your friend. Sometimes you're accurate, sometimes you're not, sometimes you're 50%, but like that's how I handle it. Like I had to be very like, you know, at times I need to be very mindful. I think I was very detached for the most part, and I chose when to show more emotion than not. But for me, overall, what was going on in the back end, like I just didn't have a lot of time, man. I like last fall, I slept like 5 hours on average, 4. Didn't eat well. It was a hard semester. But I think that I came out of it way better. But it was just like wake up at 5:30 to do some networking on LinkedIn before practice or before school. Go to school or go to practice. Then whatever. Studying the breaks. I would try not to go home because my bed was just like calling me to take a nap. So I would just like probably pack out my bag and just spend it at like Haas Business School because I had 2 classes there, study room at Haas, and just like the pool. And there were days where, man, there were days where I physically couldn't get up. Like I was just like changed into my Speedo, sat in the locker room, just like, you know, people would come like, let's go, let's do this. There were other days where other people were like that. I'm like, okay, you can't feel soft, like you can't feel like sad, you have to do this. And adding the mental component to it, the mental health component to it, I also needed to know where, you know, you need to take care of yourself before taking care of the team. Because if you're not good, you can't help the team. So it's a lot of things to juggle. It's not an easy thing to answer, I would say.
And is there ever a feeling of like overwhelmingness? Like you're saying, it's a lot of things 100%. To juggle, but if you definitely feel that overwhelmingness,
100%.
And obviously you're human, you're going to have emotions. Sometimes you have to show them, sometimes you don't. With that being said, how do you juggle? And I'm not expecting an answer to this, obviously.
How do I do that?
How do you know? How do you juggle it? Because I'm not expecting an answer with that because there is no specific one. I'm just wondering what kept you going in those mornings where it was like, man, dude, I'm tired, man. I can't keep going with this.
It's interesting because I was talking about this with like a guy, a friend, like a mentor at work. And I told him, you know, like, A, I have dreams. B, if I set a goal, I kind of like don't compromise for it in general. And C, dude, I kind of burned the boats when I came here. I don't have like, and I'm not trying to play tough or whatever. I just don't. Like, I came here to make my life. And I'm not going to go back until I figure that out. And that's something that just gets you. Like, that's discipline. If I have learned something through sports, it's discipline. Like, if it needs to get done, it will get done. Sometimes you will do it up to par because you don't have more energy or you think you don't, whatever. Sometimes you'll over-exceed, sometimes you'll be just a little better. And, like, the whole thing was, like, get through another day and have faith. And just do, like, every night I would go to bed, like, very satisfied. For the most part, just that I did everything I could. So that's what keeps you going. That A, you know what you're doing is good for you. 2, you know that you did your best. And 3, like, quite frankly, like sometimes you need to light a fire under your own ass and be like, listen, man, like this is all we got. There's no time for that. And to bring again the mental health component to it, it's very hard to juggle that because there's times where it's like, you know, if you don't stop now, you won't be able to network for a week. So let's take a day and go for a dinner and go to bed at 8 p.m. to get like 10 hours of sleep because you need them on the back end. So again, as you said, there isn't an answer. It's very much like we'll figure out as we go. It's a game. Things change in the game. The score, the time, the opponent, like everything changes. So you just have to adapt.
Yeah, no, and it's all adapt and adjust.
I'm sure you see this with this freaking podcast.
This is trial and error every single time, and there's times when it's like, dude, wake up in the morning and start editing, and but the videos did well, and then the videos didn't do well, and this one got 100,000 views, and then this one got 200. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Oh, there was this comment. These people told me to my face that they don't like what I do. These people were making fun of my project right here. But these ones were saying that it inspires them and that they like it and please do more. And it's like, well, to what extent am I going to listen? And I am all ears to feedback. I am all ears to criticism. I am all ears to compliments. With that being said, you have to learn who to listen to and who to not listen to, because if not, it's going to be just getting all these ideas in my head. Even compliments. It could get my ego up when, no, you need to cut that out and get back to work. Negative things. No, cut that out, get back to work, improve. So it's a balance, like you said, a podcast, soccer, water polo, school,
social life,
anything. It's trial and error every single time. But I was just asking you specifically, like with those aspects of what keeps you going, and it's interesting. It's a dream. I almost feel like you almost have to lie to yourself until it becomes a reality, in the sense that, not fake it till you make it, I'm not saying that.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
But the lie of, hey, this could become something. Keep going, until it does.
I think that like one of my biggest aspects, one of my biggest assets, like I'm kind of, I don't know why. Like I think like, honestly, my parents deserve like a lot of credit for this. My parents never told me like be more realistic. It's not that I told them that I'm gonna be an astronaut or whatever. Like, but I was kind of like, I want to do this. They were like, okay. The answer was always like, okay, how do we do this? My mom was more of like the processes, the discipline for it. My dad was more of the mechanics. My dad, big finance guy, was always like, let's make an Excel for it. No matter what it was. It was like, want to go there, let's make an Excel for it. So it was always like, and you don't make an Excel for everything. Almost for everything you can make one. But you just kind of like, it gets you in the mentality that, okay, it's not that you can't, it's that A is going to take something. You need to know what it takes, and you need to know how to get there. And I think that my biggest thing was just like, dude, like I do dream, and like nobody has ever told me how my dreams are to be. And whoever told me that, and I listen to them, I go back and I'm like, you should have shut that person out of your life so much earlier, which I eventually do. And it's true, like, dude, again, going back, like I was the last person to get on that bus for that world championship team. You line up those other 12 dudes, probably most of them would have a scholarship before me. I never told that I wanted to go to the US to people for the first 2 years. But did I think about it? All the time. Did I watch all the NCAA videos? All the time. Didn't tell about it. You don't need to tell your dreams always, because, as you said, people are going to say bad things, and, you know, if they catch you at the wrong time and they discourage you, like, they can have such a bad effect, which is such a shame. So yeah, I think that like I was always a dreamer. I always had like the mentality of just like, I'm going to make it, and also I also believe that, you know, I never had something to fall back into. Which is interesting that I say that I was a dreamer, because I always struggled with self-confidence, which kind of, it's interesting. Like I always thought that I was meant for things, but I also like didn't know if I was going to make it. So that's where I did all this work to bridge the gap, in a sense. Yeah.
I mean, the only way to gain more confidence is literally through repetition in whatever it is that it is.
You know what's you know Ed Milet, I'm assuming?
No.
Oh, so Ed Milet, like he's a pretty big motivational speaker and stuff. He says that self-confidence, which is, I find it very interesting, and he clicked in my head, is like, to have self-confidence, you just have to you have to have a good tally with yourself. You have to keep the promises you make to yourself. And that's how you build self-confidence. And he's like, for the people that are like achieving things but don't have self-confidence, you just have to go back and remind yourself your achievements now and then. Not too much, but you have to. Because I also heard another, like, obviously my friends make so much fun of me. My feed is like full of motivational videos, whatever. Another video I heard was like, you know the story of Icarus? So, you know, the guy that basically, it's an ancient Greek myth where they were trapped in a labyrinth in Greece, in Crete, and him and his dad, that was an architect, his dad made feathers out of wax to escape the labyrinth. Okay, that's Icarus. And his dad was Daedalus, and he basically told his son, Icarus, don't fly too high, because if you go into the sun, the wax will melt and you fall in the sea. What did Icarus do? He flew too high because he got too excited, ended up. The point is that there's another side of the story nobody says. His dad also told him don't fly too low. And the speaker was trying to get to the point that like we often tell people to be humble, but we don't tell people enough to believe in themselves. And that's what I feel like happens with a lot of athletes. Because we've been around so many coaches that scrutinize us to make us better. We just only learn to like say the bad things, and we forget to give ourselves pats in the back. So while you set those dreams, you should give yourself a pat in the back, and you should allow yourself to dream, because if your dreams are not big enough, they don't scare you. Dude, like we're 20-something. We can mess up our life 4 times. If we decide to. I hope we don't, but like we can mess up our life 4 times, like we start again. Like we should have big dreams. We should try things. And no matter what that is, go study in another country, go over here abroad, pick a job that you don't like. So all those things, just things that I kept telling myself to like motivate. And last thing, I learned how to outsource my motivation. I knew what I needed to listen to, watch, and the content I need to consume to make myself feel better. Because sometimes, man, when you have nothing and you put that song and you can go for like another gym session or like another, you know, study session, or you can like call your parents, like I'm very like for that, and just like cry for 15 minutes and be like, I'm good, I just need to take this so I can go. Like you need to like figure out your ways to get there. Yeah. And I kind of figured it out in the way what helps me, what doesn't.
Yeah, you have to like surround yourself with the right people, and that's not necessarily the people physically, but also just what you're listening to, who you're listening to, what you're reading, who you're studying, etc., things like that. And it's funny, like I'm smiling for 2 reasons. Again, my friends would give me so much shit about these things as well, like the feed, oh, he always has something to say, this or that. Same thing with quotes. I'm huge on quotes. We had to do something for a class where it was like an identity post or something like that. It's the class I teach for freshmen, like UGBA 199.
Oh.
Yeah, so that one. And you have to do an identity poster. And literally, I just put quotes in it, like to show the kids, like, hey, you can draw yourself a picture, you can do your own pictures. I literally just put up some of my quotes. And I'm smiling because same thing comes from my parents starting to recognize it. And they will, like, give me quotes to learn or, like, give me gifts with it. And this is actually, it's right here on my table. It's one of my favorite gifts ever.
You posted this at some point.
What?
How you posted what it says? I think I've seen this.
Yes.
What does it say?
I have. So it's one of my favorite gifts. My dad gave it to me for my birthday this past summer. And it says, you see things, you say why. But I dream things that never were. And I say, why not? George Bernard Shaw. And that's exactly what you're saying. It's like, dream, go, go. And then it's never, oh, don't shoot for that because it's not going to happen. No, it's, how are we going to do it? How are we going to make it happen? And like you're saying, the same thing for me. It's like, my parents' support with that. The first time I've gotten, not backlash, but they were like, what is this kid up to? It's 18 years of soccer, and then out of nowhere he starts to get a camera in front of him. What is this kid doing?
It's different generations.
No, not in a bad way.
No, I know, but they were like...
And not the generation either. They were just like, how long is he going to stick to it? That's what they were most... It could have been anything else. If I said, oh, now I want to be a chef, they're like, is this going to be a
in our generation, it's a fair thing to say, honestly. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, exactly. And that's the first time I remember my mom was like, hey, maybe don't buy the camera. Because I was like a private coach and raised that money and all that money into one of these cameras. And maybe just see it out. Nope, I'm going to do it. As soon as they saw me go all into this, full support.
Which is amazing because it's the same, yeah. They kind of want to challenge you a little bit. They just want to just make sure that you have it so they can tell you because they trust you, but they want to make sure that you're making the good decision. So it's a good thing to have like good relationship with them. I have the same.
And let me be clear, it's not that they weren't supporting of it at all.
Totally.
It was just that little challenge.
It was the same thing with me when I was kind of thinking what I wanted to do for a degree and then what I wanted to do for a job. It was kind of like I kind of had those conversations mostly with my dad. And, first time, he was kind of like pushing me away from like banking because he did. And then I took my first economics class and I was just like, this is what I like to do. And I called him, I was like, listen, this is what I want to do. He's like, okay. Like when they see you do things with conviction, they're just kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. You get the confidence, you're growing. I can't skip the story of the full circle moment with your last game, being NCAA champions, especially the last shot, the last goal, everything. Take me through that and what that meant for you, full circle moment, like quite literally.
Like, you always, every time that somebody asks me, I say the same thing, like, dude, everybody dreams of scoring the winning goal at some point in their life. And I was like never a big scorer. Like my position is not a big scorer position. We're more of a defender, like distribute things out. Wasn't like a big gun in the team anyways. Like I just like did my job. And I don't know, to be there and to do it like that, it was kind of like, at the moment I didn't know because there were 28 seconds and my thing was just like, let's go set up the defense. And I don't say this to like seem cool. Like I actually didn't realize how little there was left in the clock. And I also thought we were up by 2 by then. Like I thought we were already ahead and I scored another one. But then I'm like, oh, then I look at the score and then I see that they're calling a timeout. I'm like, okay. And then it was just kind of like, I don't know. It ends. I almost dropped how much I was yelling. I was just like, I didn't know what was going on. Then I get out and then I see like all of my former captains were there for more like 4 years. My best friends, girlfriend at the time, like family was there. Everyone is there. And just like, I just grabbed Odie, my friend that was here, and it's just like bawling eyes out. Like freaking NCAA was like zooming on us and like I was like, fuck. But it was just like, I don't know. It's a culmination of a lot of pushing. Like, it taught me, it reassured the belief that I had that it's cool to care. Because this is something I didn't mention before during those 9 months of COVID season and the second season of 2021. Like, I was at some point like, do I care too much? I get that a lot of myself. Like I asked, but it's cool to care. It's cool to do good. It pays off. At some point it pays off. And that was the vibe. Like, all these people and seeing people being happy for you, seeing your brothers just like, my team has just been like happy and accomplished. And we talked about this hours and hours over night outs, movies, walks, phone calls, Zooms, everything. We've talked about this. It just happened. It was just super cool. And I think that it really hit me when when we were at that like last day, end of the year banquet, when we kind of like talk about things, I kind of, it was again, it was all worth it. That's kind of like what it meant for me. I was very proud and very happy. Like, it's still a beautiful moment, and it would always be because people wanted us to win, and we did, and everybody was very happy. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm explaining this very well.
No. I mean, it completely makes sense, and I mean, you literally cannot make it up better at all. Like, you can't write that.
No.
You can't make that up, and for you to finish that way after how you started and everything you went to, I think is absolutely incredible, and congratulations on that. I remember the first time I, not met you in person because we didn't meet, but that I saw you was in that captain's meeting that we had with the leadership thing that the classes they were giving, and you spoke about that and literally everything we've talked about, and I was like, holy shit, because obviously I saw the video, obviously I saw the celebration and everything, but
my teammates make so much fun about it.
Yeah, I know what you meant. I've heard you explain it, how it was like bear territory.
Did the guy at the leadership thing ask or something?
No, they asked, just for your perspective, and you were, I mean, literally the same thing we're talking about now, which I think is the healthy thing that we should be talking about, anybody as leaders, which is bullshit aside, cut it out, it's straightforward. You have to grind out, you all have to be on the same page, and you have to do the work. It's no, let me see if I can make it. No, it's yes or no. Are we going to put in the work, yes or no? Are we going to get there together, yes or no? All right. And that's it.
And people can see through that. Like, if your intentions are genuine and you've done a little bit of bonding, like, people can see that. And I truly believe that only people that are selfish are not going to get on board. One way or the other, they will. So yeah, I don't know. I think that it came all full circle. And if you remember, at those seminars, I talked a lot about the mental side of things. Like, I talked a lot about how being an NCAA team, a captain of an NCAA team or a Division I team it's a thankless job, man. Because you're a player, you don't have any added privileges, really. But you have a lot of extra responsibilities if you choose to assume them, and you have the potential to do something big. But it's rough waters all the time, and that's why it's so rewarding when you make it. And it doesn't need to be a title; it needs to be my team did this and we did this. Everybody has their own North Star. Not everybody wins, but a lot of teams can have made those huge leaps.
Yeah. No, agreed, and like I said, congratulations on all of that. That's incredible, especially after the obstacles that it took to even get there in the first place, right? And I think it gives some extra flavor to that ring, wanting it from 16, 17, 18, 19 COVID, 21.
Took us a couple of attempts, but yeah.
Hey, but you got there. The obstacle is the way, no?
But then, again, going back to what we were saying before, did I think that we could have at least one more ring? Always, I think about that. And it's a thing that I've always think about, and something you need to manage the expectations with yourself, just like it's in the past.
That's insane though, that you always finished on top with the 3 teams that you had. It's crazy naturally, in a way, I guess naturally, or that you chose to step away, was at the top, with your club team.
It was my last.
That's what I'm saying.
Going to the States.
That's what I'm saying. Naturally, there was no other option. League, international, NCAA, on top.
I'm a lucky guy, man. What can I say?
That's crazy. It's like that Batman quote of either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Okay, I guess.
Hey, I guess you died the hero. That's a better way to look at it, don't you think?
I never thought about it. Yeah. Very, very, very romanticized. But yeah, I don't know. It was nuts, man. I was so happy. And it's a very, very sweet moment. Even when we got the ring this August, we did that little ceremony thing. I just started crying. I'm like, it's impossible. We actually have it. Yeah. It's good. It's just and I felt so much because we put so much into it that it's kind of it's very rewarding when you invest in things. It's worth it. It's worth to care. It's worth to put a part of you into things. Yeah. Because then life just multiplies it for you.
Caring is cool.
That should be the motto of this podcast.
Yeah.
Caring is cool.
With this philosophies and leadership and everything that we talked about, I've had a question in mind since the last time we talked. Mm-hmm. I think that these lessons and everything we've talked about with what we've learned through philosophies, leadership, whatever you want to call it, life lessons, they are good because they guide you. But at times, do you think they suppress our mental health and help us keep going? Or they fix the mental health, which allows us to keep going? And I'm asking that because of the pressures. Example, you mentioned the Stoics last time, and I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. Big fan. With that being said, sometimes I feel myself just struggling with, it's super overwhelming, I'm tired, I'm about to break down, and literally I go back to the basic of focus on what you can control and ignore the rest. And it's like one that solves my problems like on the spot, but maybe I need to express that emotion. Do you think these lessons are just suppressing our emotions, and that at times, just being human, we need to let them go, and sometimes because we're men, we struggle with that a bit more? Like, should we be having those breakdowns every now and then, or should we just follow these lessons and keep going?
I think that it's a little bit of both. Like, I think that in our day and age, we kind of like demonize emotional control too much. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. I think it served me very well. For the most part, I think that it's true that you shouldn't take decisions when you're feeling emotional, so it's helped me on that. However, do I think that like there should be a safer space for men to talk about it? Yes, but like that's a longer conversation. That's a very abstract thing to say, because it's not just like it should be cool for us. It should be like a space, how to say it, who to say it. Like it's both ways, like who to talk to. Like we should be able to talk to our guy friends way more, when we don't do that enough. Like we don't, but. Because you kind of like opened up to like, so the stoic part. I think the stoic part is brilliant. I think it's pure strength. I think you have to be able to, because and this is a personal thing that I thought, because I thought about it. I want to be able to be the person who people rely on. I want to have a family in my life. I want to be that beacon of strength. However, on the flip side of things, I want to be able to have a circle plus a partner at some point where I'm going to be able to be like, listen, like 5, 6, 7 times a year, I need to just lay down. Don't talk to me, just like let me like, lay my head somewhere. So I think that just like you have to build your environment to allow you to be, emotional, which you can be stoic and emotional at the same. You can have the stoic philosophy inside of you, but also be emotional. Because like I think that stoicism is about not making emotional decisions and understanding your emotions. And as a quote that I love says, feel your shit, understand your shit, but don't lose your shit. So I think that allows you not to lose your shit. So once you get a hold of yourself, you know which things are worth talking, crying, being sad about, and you kind of like build that healthy relationship with yourself. You're like, okay, you're just tired or you're just hungry. Let's revisit this in a little bit. Others think like, this is kind of big, you kind of need to talk about this, So I think that, again, emotional control is strength, and especially like out level with other people, you need to be able to control yourself. And on the mental health side of things, we just need to be able to like create a space where we can open up.
The podcast has been my favorite school, and this is one of the biggest lessons, because it wasn't let's see what Nikos has to say. It was a genuine question that I've had on my mind. Like, how can I
don't have the answers. I'm just
no, but that helped a lot. Like it was, for me, it's been like, damn, so many times I'm about to break down. Should I just let it go? Nope. Focus on can control, keep going. And it's helped me. It's helped me find happiness and everything, but you're right. It's not about not being emotional. It's about not making emotional decisions, which I have done. I just didn't understand it that way.
We all do, and I think like for example, my biggest thing with emotions is anxiety and analysis paralysis. I suffer by it immensely. I go through it every time a major thing comes, and like there isn't a benefit in you paralyzing by stress. There's a benefit in you. Write down the things you can control, write down the things you cannot control. Take care of the things that you can control, and about the others you can worry. But it's a very different way of worrying, and a way healthier of being like, holy crap, like actually like, yeah, Stoic philosophy will tell you don't worry about those things. But it's human. When it's a big thing, it's human, and you should allow yourself to be like, man, if this goes whatever, and this and that. And then you have that support circle that hopefully is going to tell you, listen, let's go have ice cream, let's go on a walk, let's go watch a movie, let me give you a hug, let me chat, let's put some music on. So we can go through those emotions that you have to feel. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing, like, understanding your emotions and what you want to do, and which ones is okay to feel, which ones is just like circumstantial. Like, again, what I'm trying to say is like, for example, for me with analysis paralysis, like, you step back and you say, okay, I can take care of these things, and then I can be stressed. But like not doing anything about it, it's just worse. So again, it's an emotional decision at the end, but you've taken care of the stuff that you have to take care of.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, I completely.
Which, by the way, I'm a work in progress. I don't meant to sit here and like give advice or instructions.
I don't think anybody can ever say that they're their final version, and if they are, they're flying too close to the sun, and their feathers will break down. But no, I mean, I think it's important to recognize that, because another quote to throw at you, like, the first step to solving any problem is recognizing that there is one. And if you can say like, all right, I've had issues in the past, I've dealt with them, I have some current ones, I'll keep working on them. And once you're done with these, you'll find new ones. But if you don't have that carrot again, what are you running towards,
Exactly. Problems are a good thing. Keep you sharp.
Yeah. No, 100%.
You can mostly solve most of them one way or the other. Speaking of a quote, speaking of this, my dad's favorite quote, one of the first quotes I heard from him, it's that one, it's part of the do you know the Serenity Prayer?
Yes.
It says that like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes.
Which for me is just like the best thing that like a father can tell his son when he's like going through something. He's like, remember, like, just understand what you can change what you can, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's life.
Literally. Yeah, I had a teacher who was also a coach at one point who... I used to go to a religious school, so that was like how we started every single class, just with that one. And amazing. I mean, it makes a huge difference, just like, call it a mantra, call it a prayer, whatever you want to call it. It helps.
I believe in I think that whatever your relationship is with God, whatever God you believe in, I think that like there is some like soul cleanse that you can do through praying. Doesn't need to be like something driven, but just kind of like, as humans, we're always like manufactured or like believed in higher entities and bigger things. So I think that's a very healthy thing to keep with yourself. In order for you to keep gratitude, to keep hope, and to keep like, be thankful about things.
Yeah. What's your relationship with that? Are you religious?
So I'm raised Orthodox Christian, and I think that like I have a healthy relationship with it. I do believe that you can believe in any everybody has their own version of God, whatever that is. I don't think there's a specific way of worshiping or like believing in it. I don't think like, for example, the church is the only way. Like it should be as anyone should be able to have a healthy relationship with whoever their God is. Or if they don't want to have one, that's also fine. And I don't think that you should ascribe to anything if you don't believe it. You shouldn't force yourself. You should find a higher meaning, higher purpose, and kind of like work out your relationship with it as you age. And I personally have that. Like I'm very thankful, and I think about like a lot of the mornings. It's part of my morning routine. Like I like to say 3 things. I'm like, thanks for everything I've got, and for my people being healthy. Please keep them healthy. And then I think that a friend of mine told me, it's like, I don't pray for lighter burdens. I pray for a stronger back and the opportunity to develop a stronger back, which is kind of like what I like to say. So that's your prayer. That's something I've been saying recently. Back in the day, I just like to say no, and then like a thank you mentally. It's whatever you think. And if you don't want to say it to a God, you want to say it to the universe, go ahead. Like I just think that's a good thing to have in your mind, in your verbiage.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that whoever your God is, whether you do or don't have one, whether it's the universe, whether it's constellation source, whatever you want to call it, for me, it's if it's making you a better person, if it keeps you going, if it helps you find motivation or a good sense of vibe for everybody else, then do it. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's fine to judge other people depending on where they can find that. That I don't think is right, but if that's making you a better person, awesome. If that's making you a better person, awesome. You do you.
And it's beautiful to learn about other religions. And it is, I'm a big proponent of like understanding where everybody's coming from. And I think it's beautiful to learn about other religions. Because I think that you can always pick little bits from everybody.
Yeah, you pick the bits from everyone. You choose the best. And then if you copy from one person, you're plagiarizing. But if you're choosing from the best of the best here, and there, you combine it. And it's your own original product. So yeah, that's the best part. Well, that's pretty much what I had. Did I miss anything that you want to touch on? Anything you want to say? I have some last final questions, but I don't want to skip any part of your story.
Did I want to say anything today? I feel like we talked about so many things. I feel like what I told you on our coffee was kind of like, just like to everybody out there, like going through it, like just keep going. Like I don't know exactly what your like audience like comprises of, but like student athletes that are listening, like man, it sucks, but like lean on your people. Lean on your people, and at the same time, make sure somebody can lean on to you. Like, they're good. We're all in this together. We have so many things in common, and there's so many people going through the same stuff, and you don't even know. Talk to somebody. Because I think that it's really sad how many people, like, I didn't mean to, like, turn this, but, like, we talked about this, like, kind of, like, it's really hard how much people suffering alone, and I've suffered alone for whatever period of time. And, just talk to somebody. It's going to be good for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we talked about this a lot.
No, we definitely did. And I mean, if anybody is listening to this part, I'm just going to go out and say it, that there are people out there willing to listen, not in a like cliche way, but literally like SAC, for example. I think I told you about this, like the group we have at SAC. SAC, for those that don't know, Student Athlete Advisory Committee. There's 2 players from every team. There's only 1 team in All-Cal Athletics that does not have representatives yet. Shout out men's water polo. But we're doing our best to get 2 reps from you guys. Anyways, we do, and it's bi-weekly meetings, and after every meeting there's a group that it's like mental health subcommittee, and it's called the open circle, or like peer-to-peer. And it's literally 10, 15 student athletes, we're just sitting and we talk. It's not therapy, it's nothing. But people talk, people listen, and that's it. And it goes, sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, whatever people need. So even if you think there aren't people that are willing to listen, there literally are. Like, it's going on within Cal Athletics, not administration, nobody's there, it's only student athletes. So
yeah, and reach out to, like, I don't know. I said this when we were at, like, the captain seminar last year, like, reach out to anybody you see. I don't know. Everybody's super approachable, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, if you want advice, just talk to somebody. Obviously, like, I don't know that anybody would want to talk to me, but, like, or you, like, you're the most approachable human being I've ever seen. Like, you talk to anybody, and, like, people feel comfortable talking to you, and I think that they should reach out if they need help. Or, like, me, I don't know, like, if anybody wants to reach out to me. But, you know, again, this is a great platform for people, and, like, I tell you this, like, I hope Cal Athletics gets more involved into this so there can be a little more of, like, peer-to-peer support in, like, a more scaled way, you know?
Yeah, no, 100% agree with all of that. Moving forward, you said that, I remember you said this stuck out a lot to me. You said, best years of your life are not college, but the ones after. Mm-hmm. What do you have going on right now? I know you wanted to move to San Diego, like you mentioned, which is my hometown, so that's awesome. What's it like in the sense of, like, being a former athlete, like competitive athlete per se? I remember asking Kyle Millis when he came on, like, what are you gonna do, because we all just, like, need the gym or need something. Like, how has that experience been like for you, like, not playing water polo anymore and finding a source of...
I think that, like, so I basically graduated in December and my lease is up graduated in December 2021 and my lease is up May 2023, so I'm staying in Berkeley for an extra year and a half after graduation. Basically I'm like 6 months, 7 months away from, like, moving out. I decided to stay because my family doesn't live in the US. I didn't have somebody to fall back to stay for a couple months till I figure things out. So my plan was to keep everything constant besides the work and trying to figure out work. Going into the work part, I think that it's a big adjustment for student athletes because we come in, at least me, you come in with this same drive and competitiveness, but, like, the field and the sport has changed a lot. So you start setting these goals that you don't even know if they're, like, achievable, realistic, or, like, not rather the goals, the time frames. That's the tricky part. So that's what it was, like, hard to adjust for me. Like, keep realistic expectations. And, like, Jordan Peterson talks about this. He's like, you need to be humble enough to set the bar properly low, to build yourself into, like, the enough steps. You can't have, like, a ladder that's, like, every step is, like, super high to reach. And you have a ladder that's, like, reachable now and then. So that was hard for me to, like, start setting. Like, I came in like, yeah, I'm gonna get promoted, like, tomorrow. So, like, that's immediately. So what I'm trying to get at, the hardest part for me was, like, to find a way to channel my energy and work capacity and ethic and discipline into the job. It was harder, but now that I'm hitting my stride, like, that's what I'm focusing on. In terms of health, I was very, and I advise this to any people, like, automate everything else outside. Like, because it's going to take you so much to, like, figure out work, automate the gym and the meal plan as much as you can. Because I'm a huge creature of habit too. I don't mind eating pretty much the same thing, like, day after day or every 2 days. Like, a couple months ago, I sat down, made a meal plan, made a gym plan, and just, like, I know what I have to do. And so the work part, I get to be creative and flexible. The before and after, which is the meals in the gym, I have it. And then I have a couple of other hours, which is for friends, books, family, movies, whatever. So that's kind of how I've navigated, trying to keep a schedule and a routine, because we've been taught to live by a routine and a schedule. So that was my antidote. Replicate some sort of routine, but instead of sport, have the job.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and the plan is to move to San Diego eventually.
Lovely. Awesome. To close out, last couple of questions you may or may not have seen that I asked other people this. Some of the previous guests have caught on to it, but I'm still going to ask it.
I haven't. Actually, I saw videos, but I don't remember the questions.
All right. Let's see. What is your definition of success?
Long term or this next few years?
In your life, any moment, like, what would you consider success to be?
Happiness. Content, like being happy where you are and where you're going. Obviously, you're not going to be always very happy. No, you're not going to always be at the time where, like, you know, oh, everything's going perfectly. You're going to have your doubts, but success is for me that, and success is to, like, maybe I'm answering this question wrong, but for me, like, it's also, like, you know, building the life you want in terms of, like, family and being able to, like, have what you want and be able to have, like, to live in the environment you want to live and have built that environment. That's for me success.
to clarify, is success the carrot that you're chasing, or is it something that you're running with while you chase that carrot?
It's a North Star. Like, I have a goal, a vision, a purpose, whatever, which is to, like, be able to be, like, at some point in my life, turn back and be like, look what I made. And, you know, the process is, like, a beautiful thing. As cliche as that sounds, because everybody talks about the process.
Yeah.
But, like, success is, you know, to have that process and get to a point where you're like, okay. And, you know, you get to touch success, and then it goes far away, and you're like, oh, like, I'm getting there. But, you know, I don't think you can be really deemed successful fully until, you know, you get back and you're like, okay, this is what we did.
Yeah. Yeah, like with happiness, like the way I understand it right now is as a cycle. Like happiness being a means to its own end. So like for...
Explain that for your non-English speaking friend.
All right. I'll say it in Spanish and then I'll explain in English.
Sure.
O sea, cuando el proceso se vuelve la recompensa.
Claro. Exactly. Yeah.
So when the process becomes the compensation for your work. So instead of, the result, no, it's like, I love the process of doing it. Example, do I want anything to come out of this project and be deemed successful? Yes. Do I want to make money out of this one day? I would love to. But happiness to me is a success for this project. And success right now is this. I'm having a good time here, which is why I'm going to keep going and going and going, and then I will build the life that I want through it.
That's the thing, like, something I learned with my job now is, and the same thing that, it's crazy how, like, you said before, that how sports serve as a vision for life. Everything is so applicable. It's just like, once you emotionally detach from the results and you emotionally attach to the process, you will be the happiest, because at any given moment you like what you're doing. So from a professional development standpoint, that's success, being truly in love with the process. From a personal goals, I have some personal goals that I would like to get, which is some sort of like being able to provide for my own family and like have a family and all that stuff. But those are like my personal goals, you know, for a future time, whenever that comes.
Yeah.
That's success for me. And to live and to do good on a daily basis is also success. Like, to touch somebody positively. You don't know what people are going through, and we have an immense capacity to do good and to help somebody. We just don't know that.
Yeah. What about, obviously you lived it through water polo. Mm-hmm. I heard that you applied to Haas, like from what you just said. And that's hilarious because I went through the same thing. Elise Beyond, she's a junior gymnast. I don't know if you know her, but she's the one that was here, started the peer-to-peer as well, which I was talking about right now. She's awesome.
Props to her. That's amazing.
No, I just recorded with her a few days ago, and that's how we met. We both got rejected at the same time. It's a stupid process. I'm not even gonna get into it, but with those obstacles and everything that's gotten you to where you are today, what is your take on the so-deemed failure or failures?
I recently heard a quote that said, "I cannot fail if I don't quit." So I don't think you can fail if you're not quitting. Can you be a little smarter at times? Yeah, but look, I am a firm believer that, like, there's a wall in front of you. You can either bang your head until your head breaks or the wall breaks, or you can find a way to go around the wall. But like, as long as you don't stop, like, you know, you're not failing. You're just maybe you're not doing things the most smart way, but like, that also happens, part of the process. Like, you know, you didn't realize there's a door next to the wall. Let's go around it. But like, you know, I just think like failure is, man, only people that like don't dream big enough deem things failure. Like, people who are truly like chasing something or they've been successful, nobody tells you like things you failed. Nobody. Yeah. Like, I think that people are go-getters and dreamers, and they've done things in their life. They know that failure is such a toxic word that they don't even use it. I don't use it. I never said that I failed. Never call myself a failure. However, even having like crazy issues with self-confidence, never call myself a failure. So I don't think that failure is anything but stopping and giving up and listening to other people. And I'm a person who's like, looking back, I do a lot of reflecting and trying to be grateful for every single shitty thing that happened. Not failure, shitty thing. I'm also big on like watching your internal dialogue very much. So never deem anything as a failure. Everything was there for a reason. Fer wouldn't be fair if he hadn't gone through X, Y, Z. Nikos wouldn't be who it is if he can't be like through this. Anybody wouldn't be who they are. Everybody's a beautiful human because they've been through this. It's part of their life. The good and the bad, the yin and the yang. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah.
Very last one. Biggest fear as a leader?
I always thought it's easy. Letting down the troops. There isn't. Letting down my people in general is my biggest fear. Everything. Anytime who I feel like I've disappointed something is just one of the things that I just cannot like sleep. And I don't say this lightly. Like, I cannot physically sleep. I feel very, very bad, and I will apologize till people are sick of me because I just like, I don't. Is it healthy? Not all the times, probably. But is it a good trade overall? I believe so. Because I think it's important to take ownership. But my biggest fear is disappointing my people. And they know this, and they know that I'm hard on me, and they tell me that I'm not, but disappointing them. Not failing, but disappointing them. Like, I don't want anybody to believe in me. Because for me, if somebody believes in me and tell them something good, it's as if they bet money on me and I'm a company. And for me to like go and fuck it up is just I'm fucking up my shareholders, and I never want to do that.
Awesome. Hermano, that's all I have.
It's been a pleasure.
Hermano, thank you so much. It's way better than I could have expected. I really enjoyed this and love this, and hopefully in a few more months we can do it again, and we'll be doing it over coffee for sure.
And
in between.
We'll be doing tips for San Diego, hopefully.
Oh, trip for San Diego? Easy. I mean, we'll whenever you want to go, we'll be there.
Awesome, man.
Thank you so much to everyone that watched on YouTube or listened on Spotify. Thank you guys so much. If you watched on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, please follow the podcast. That's it for today. Nikos, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much.
And
I'll see you guys next time.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.